everyone, and welcome to the Foul Play YouTube channel. Yeah, it's been a minute. It's been a couple minutes, actually. This is Open Mic 254. And this evening or this morning or wherever you may be located in your part of the world, we're going to talk about some things that we've been discussing in various avenues, mainly Discord, but, a few other places, about a couple of new cases that have crossed our path. This is not to say that we're not leaving the Avery and Dassey cases behind at all, but there's literally nothing. I'm still waiting on 5 open records requests that I've had out and bitched about for forever. You guys have heard me do it. I have nothing. Anyway, the Karen Reed case has trial number 2 has started, and then the Delphi case, which Doc has been looking at quite closely. That's another one. Both of these cases, we feel like there's been some malfeasance or some
shenanigans.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely some shenanigans. So anyway, we're going to be taking a look at these cases, and we're going to be doing definitely some open mics. I don't know what Doc may have planned for reading with the crew, or if he wants to use the open mic as a platform, which I'm completely fine with. Doesn't matter to me. But we felt like it was good we should go ahead and let everyone know kind of our attention, as it is right now. Oh, one more thing. The Kratz v. his
You're breaking up there, Jack.
Oh, no, not again.
Now you're clear. You're clear now.
Okay. There's really nothing. I think Sean Rick filed for an extension to submit his reply to the lawsuit. I think these people have 30 days or something of that nature. That's the only one that I know of, but there's nothing there. It's just hey, look, I need more time kind of thing. So I think hold on a minute. Let me turn that off.
Yeah, you're cutting in and out, Jack.
Guitaring.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that any better?
Better.
That's better now, aye.
Okay. Yeah, we're having connectivity issues. It's been going on. They upgraded us about 3 weeks ago. And ever since then, it's been just trouble.
Wonky. Yeah.
It's just been trouble. One thing after another. We've done all kinds of things to try to get it fixed. But anyway, hopefully I won't guitar out. So anyway, with all that said, I'll let Doc say hello, and then we'll get to Alice, and then we'll move on.
Awesome. Thank you so much there, Jack61, and fantastic introduction as always. And look, a warm welcome to everyone. And it's great to be back and great to be doing a live again. It has been some time. And as Jack61 said, that one of the biggest issues at the moment with the Stephen Avery and Brennan Dassey cases is just absolutely nothing happening at the moment. Everything is very, very static. And as you know, the Foul Play team here, we're never going to forget Stephen Avery, Brennan Dassey, and of course, Teresa Horbach. We're always on the lookout for new information. And as soon as anything new comes out, we'll definitely cover it. As Jack61 said, there's stuff happening with Ken Kratz at the moment, and we're keeping an eye on that. But really, that particular case has been both cases have been extremely static at the moment. We're really waiting for the courts. However, we've got hundreds and hundreds of podcasts, thousands of documents available on our website and our YouTube channel. And of course, you're free and welcome to check out anything. But in the meantime, and I promise I won't take too long because it's so great to see Alice again. We've been having a look at a couple of cases which are in the news at the moment, and there's a lot of interest in the Karen Reed case and also the Delphi double murder case. At the moment, I'm spending a bit more time on the Delphi case, and I'll spend about 5 or 10 minutes talking about that. Yeah, it's really caught my attention. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. And a warm welcome, and it's great to see everyone again. And thank you so much for sticking with us. We truly are blessed with our supporters, our subscribers. Thank you so much. And I'm going to pass you on to Alice. Great to see you, Alice.
Welcome back, Alice.
Yeah.
Awesome to see you.
Hiya, guys. The loudmouth is back. Watch out. It's great to see you guys. The last year or so has been a bit a bummer, but hopefully coming out the other end of it. I've realised that we've been awfully quiet with the Stephen case. I did notice all the carry on with Kratz, even though I've tried to stay away from social media. I have went on and just had a wee look just to see what's been happening, and I've seen things that I didn't like and stuff like that. And then I looked on Twitter one day and I seen Nosy Wren going mental about a judge and witnesses and things like that in the Karen Reid case. And I was like, well, Nosy wouldn't be going daft like that if it wasn't true. So we're reading her tweet. She tweaked my curiosity, and it got the better of me. And I started watching the Karen Reid stuff. And oh my God, what a shit show that is. So it's great to be back. Good to see everyone in chat. I see that there's regulars and some newbies. So it's good to see that they're all still coming back with us.
It's fantastic.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what we're going to do is, yeah, if I didn't do it, I also want to welcome, everyone back. It's been a few weeks since we've done anything, and I think the last thing we did was on the on Kratz's civil lawsuit. So anyway, without getting into any particular details, life happens. We've all experienced, at least for myself and Doc and others, we've had some real life things to deal with, and we're just people just like everyone else. And when real life interferes, it comes first, and that includes us. So we want to put out material, but at the same time we have to deal with real life just like everyone else. So anyway, with that said, let's move on. Doc is he's got a few slides we're going to pop up. He's going to talk about the Delphi case, and then we're going to talk about the Karen Reid case. Just get some general information out there for those. A lot of people are following these cases, so if there's interest, we hope you're here. We're looking for the truth, as always. We want the truth, and we're going to give our opinion. You can agree with it, disagree with it. It's okay. Stay civil, please. We're all about civility. Treat each other with respect. Because I'll tell you, if you don't, if we get those in the crowd that are disrespectful, you're gonna be able to watch, but you're not gonna be able to comment. So please keep your comments. I know that there's some extremes in these cases, just like Avery Dassey cases and many other cases, and we understand it. At the same time, please use your civility. If you have a question or you disagree, you can state why, and it's fine. So please stay civil, guys. So with that said, I'm going to pop this first slide up, Doc.
Awesome. Yep. Thank you so much there, Jack61. Well, look, guys, today, this is really more like an introduction to the Delphi murder case. It's not going to be a deep dive. And the reason why it's not going to be a deep dive is because at the moment, we don't have the transcripts, the court transcripts, nor do we have the documents the trial. There's a few trial exhibits which are out there, but we actually don't have the reports. We've been spoilt really with the Avery and Dassey cases in that we have a lot of information. So hence we can actually do a lot of deep diving. And in this particular case, the judge, I think her name is Judge Frances Gall, decided that there were going to be no cameras or recording equipment present inside the courtroom.
Oh my God.
That means that it's pretty well locked. However, we've been very, very fortunate in that there's been quite a few lawyers and other individuals who actually were at the trial every day. And what I want to do is, first of all, say that I'm not an expert in the Delphi case, right? There's a lot of information that you need to put together to study this case, but I certainly do have an interest in the Delphi double murder case. And the reason why I've got an interest, and some people have actually made a comment in chat, there's a shocking amount of similarities between what happened here and what happened between Stephen Avery, Brendan Dassey. There are a lot of parallels, a lot of similarities. So really my interest in this particular case is really twofold. I was asked by Case Amy, and to go check out her YouTube channel. I was asked a couple of weeks ago if I would have a look at the DNA forensics in the Delphi murder case. And so I spent a couple of weeks putting it all together and having a look at everything, having a look at what is available. And I was very, very blessed that Andrea Burkhart, again, please subscribe to her channel. She's a very, very clever person, very passionate, and knows her material backwards. And also Bob Motter was also at the trial from Defense Diaries. So guys, a big shout out to Case by Case, Andrea Burkhart, and the Defense Diaries. They've done a stellar amount of work in the Delphi murder case. I'm really just beginning, and the purpose of his introduction is really just to tell you why I'm interested in it. It's really twofold. This is looking at the parallels between what happened with Stephen and Brendan, and I'll talk about it in a minute. So the two main areas that I'm interested in are the DNA forensics in this case, and also the methods of interrogations that Richard Allen, he's been convicted. The methods of interrogations that the interrogators used on Richard Allen. And I'll talk about that in a second. All right, so what is the basis? What's the Delphi murder case all about? So I want to introduce to you the two unfortunate victims, and it breaks my heart because normally in a case like this, I would not touch, especially involving the murder of young children. It's extremely distressing. But then again, the Avery and Dassey cases are also very distressing, and of course what happened to Teresa. So I was shocked to see the similarities between these cases. The two murder victims in this case was Abigail Williams, also affectionately known as Abby. She was 13 years old. And the other unfortunate victim was Liberty German, who was 14 years old at the time, and she's affectionately known as Libby. And the person who has been convicted for both of their murders is Richard Allen. Now, just to introduce to you this case, it is a very emotive case. It is a very distressing case. And there is a lot of interest in this case. And Jack and Alice, this reminds me very much of the Avery and Dassey cases 10 years ago. How when MAM 1 and MAM 2 coming out was a massive amount of interest. Jack 61, do you have a comment?
Well, yes and no. This case is kind of like, well, actually back many months ago, I had did some conversion for Amy of some
Yes.
interviews that she had got, and she was trying to get documentation and material, and just she was running into a lot of brick walls
Yep.
in many ways. And I haven't talked to her in ages, but it certainly just from what I saw, and again, I'm no expert. I just have kind of general knowledge. The case looked awful. I mean, from the standpoint, and look, people say, "Well, you guys just don't like the police," and that's not true. That is 100% false for us. We're like everybody else. We believe that most scouts go to work. They do an honest job. They
Yep.
try to do the right thing. They follow the law. They do everything correctly. When we see things done incorrectly and they do things incorrectly and it happens several times, to me, guys, that's intentional. And that raises a radar for me. It does. So
Yeah,
anyway,
it's
and
not
go ahead,
just
Al.
that. It's not just that though, Jack. It's there is good cops out there, but when you've been involved in it personally, or you've seen it personally, or you know that it's happened to somebody, the corruption that is involved, i.e., like, coercions and uh, no giving them things and stuff like that. It happens in in all countries, but it is more prevalent in other countries than it is in some. And I'm afraid to say, if you're an outsider, if somebody who stays in Scotland and was brought up in Glasgow, we uh, we know about this kind of stuff. We know about bad cops out there doing stuff and everything like that because we grew up with it. So it's no surprise to us. But when there's a lot of people out there that believe in the police and believe, their law and order, and they abide by the rules and their policies and their regulations and everything like that, it's hard to convince these people that the police, the people that they trust to protect them, can be the ones that can hurt them and hurt
Yes.
them badly by putting them in prison for life.
Correct.
I mean, how many videos and that have you seen online and stuff like that? Cops putting drugs in people's motors just to
Yep.
get arrests and stuff like that. And it annoys me that people out there go, "Oh no, but the police will not do that." Aye, they do. And the quicker you get to realise that, the better that you'll come to understand these types of cases. And I mean, that's just my opinion. When I see these things happening, you know what I mean? It's like, yes, there is good police out there, but these good police keep their mouths shut when the serious things like this is happening, coercions, picking on kids, things like that, What these good ones who don't speak out, in my opinion, are just as bad as the bad ones. But then it needs to be easier for them to be able to come out and tell on the bad ones.
Correct. Thank you so much, Alice. we love your wisdom and your comments, that's for sure. But just getting back to this. So let me just tell you a little bit of the background so everyone is filled in. So both girls, they're the best of friends. They were the best of friends. Abby and Libby were last seen alive. Now, this is back in February the 13th, 2017. And they went on a trail. And as you can see on the left-hand side, this infamous picture, which I'll talk about in a second. And they were on the Monon High Bridge trail. And this particular video is snapshot that you see right here. This is Abby, and it's Libby who's taking the video. She also took a photo and sent it up to Snapchat. She took a video and only lasted, I think, for about 43 seconds. And this is the infamous video of the so-called bridge guy. And as you can see, there's this man who is following the girls, or in this case, Abby, across the bridge. And there's been a lot of discussion regarding the identity of this individual here. So Jack 61, if we can zoom back in. So both girls were dropped off, I believe, by the sister of Libby, Kelsey. They were dropped off at the trail, and it's in the Delphi Historic Trails near Deer Creek in Indiana, in America. Unfortunately, their bodies were later found about half a mile from the trail, close to Deer Creek, the very next day. So when the girls went missing on the 13th, there was a big search party. A lot of people went out. I think there were helicopters as well, looking for the girls, because I believe one of the one of the parents was going to meet them at the trail to pick them up, and they failed to report. And of course, they got lots of phone calls, no responses. And it was Libby that had a mobile phone with her. And it was Libby that captured this video. I think it lasts for about 43 seconds. Now, this is 2017. Richard Allen, who was 50 years old at the time, he was arrested on October the 26th, 2022.
So 5.5 years later.
Yeah, 2022. And he now he underwent 2 interrogations, and I'll talk about that in a second. So over 5 years had gone by, and there were initially a lot of different type of suspects, but there were no arrests. So when you think about this is horrific. You've got 2 young children who were murdered. And let me just tell you a little bit about it. And I know this is a little bit grisly, so please, if you're sensitive, don't listen. Both of them had their throats cut, and it looked like some type of knife or blade, potentially even a box cutter. They both had their throats cut. Libby had several slashes on her throat. Major blood vessels were cut, and there was a horrendous amount of blood at the crime scene. Now, what is bizarre about this was that Libby was fully naked, and Abby was actually dressed or redressed in the clothing of Libby. And the investigators found articles of clothing in a nearby creek. And what is so bizarre is that their bodies appear to have been staged or moved. And what the investigators found was there was the presence of branches or sticks. Some of the sticks or branches were 7 feet long. And I read the other day that one of the branches actually had a saw cut mark in it, right? So someone had cut the piece of wood that they placed on top of the girls. On one of the trees, known as the F tree, there appeared to be a sign like an F, and it was in Libby's blood. And at the crime scene, there was the presence of a lot of blood. Now, Libby contained blood on herself, but Abby was almost devoid of any blood at all, right? So it was really, really weird. The crime scene was really weird. What the investigators failed to do, now you're going to like this, Jack 61 and Alice, they didn't collect the sticks until several days later.
Oh my God.
Right. So
well, just from what you're saying, it sounds like the other girl was killed somewhere else and then brought back.
Well,
there was little of her blood. Anyway,
there's been a lot of controversy, right? But there's no doubt that there are pools of blood at the scene, at the crime scene. Right. And when I was reading this, Jack 61, I thought to myself, oh my God, remember what Brendan Dassey said that they'd done to Teresa Hallbart, sliced her across the throat, but no blood anywhere. Well, apparently, that's right. But apparently at this crime scene, there were many, many pools of blood. Wow. And the crime scene person who reconstructed the crime scene blood spatter expert, Cicero, I think his name was, worked out that the girls probably, it took about 5 to 10 minutes for the girls to die. So horrific. Alice, do you have a comment?
Yeah, it sounds a wee bit like Jodie as well, Doc. You
Yeah.
know, her throat was slit. She was nearly decapitated, but
Yep.
there was hardly any blood.
Yep.
She lost
Yeah.
5 liters of blood,
I remember that,
but there was
Alice.
hardly any at the scene. So, yeah, I mean, like I was saying earlier, that it doesn't just happen. It's not just happening in America, you know. It's happened here in the UK as well. It is the policy's incompetence or
Yeah.
just damn right ignorance of it doesn't matter who we get, we need to get someone.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that someone is anyone.
Yeah, yes, and I have an awful feeling that this is what occurred in this particular case. So, Richard Allen, here's the surprising thing. He had no criminal history. He's a married man, got a daughter, got a job. And he actually self-reported. He went to the police, rang them up, went to the police back in February 2017. He said, "Hey, I was on the trail that day. I was there and I saw 4, I think he said 3 or 4 girls. Yeah, I think it was 3 girls. He said, I saw 3 girls, but I arrived at the bridge. I was on the bridge. I walked out to the, if you have a look at the picture that Jack 61 has got up, you can see that bridge guy is almost towards the end of the bridge." Richard Allen said, no, when I was on the bridge, I was on the other side. I only came out to the first landing, checked the water to see if there's fish, and apparently the water is so clear you can see if there's fish down below. He said, I went home. So he self-reported, Richard Allen self-reported back in 2017 to say, hey, I was there. I didn't see anybody. I didn't see Abby. I didn't see Libby. I was only there for a little bit of time. I went home. Unfortunately, the person who took the report filed it under the wrong name. So that tip was lost until 2022. But Richard, thinking he was doing the right thing, right, Jack 61, right, Alice, went and contacted the police, the sheriff, to say, hey, I was there that day, Jack 61.
Yep. That's right.
So he actually self-reported that he was there, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's it, Doc. I mean, what is the first thing the police say to you or say to an audience when they're doing a press conference, or one of the last things they say to you when they do a press conference is, if anybody out there has got any information, no matter how little or how insignificant that you think it is, if you have any information, please come forward and let us know.
Yep.
So the poor guy does that,
Did the right thing.
goes and says, oh, by the way, I was in the vicinity, you know what I mean? And then the poor fucker's getting arrested. It's like, no wonder people do not want to speak
I don't want to come forward.
to the police. They don't want to report anything to the police. The best thing that we can say to anybody is, if you do see something, I mean, when I was growing up, Doc, when something like that happened, it was, you never saw nothing, you never heard nothing, you don't know nothing. Whether you were standing right there and you watched it happen, like if you watched somebody go into a shop and rob that shop and walk right out with the goods in their hand, and then you talk to the police, I never saw nothing, I don't know nothing, you know, and that's what we were told when we were growing up. And I always thought, why? And then you've got this kind of stuff happening. The poor guy thought he was doing something right by saying, I was in the vicinity, I seen the the lassies or if he's seen the lassies or no. But saying that he was there and then no, this is that. And I mean, what is he? I take it he's got life because I really don't know much.
130 years.
100
130 years.
without
right?
parole, I take it.
Oh no, he's not coming out. But oh, Susan has joined us.
Hi, Susan.
Hey, Doc. Hey, Alice. How nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Yeah. Hey,
Hey,
Jack.
Susan. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Both these
Okay.
cases just will drive you crazy.
They
Yeah.
will.
And, they both mirror the Avery
They
case
do.
in a lot of ways, and especially the law enforcement corruption in
Yeah,
all three
yeah.
cases.
That's
It's the
that's what-
biggest, the biggest what do you call it? Well, the way they I
The
just
way
woke
they,
up.
the way they
I
conduct
can't
their
think.
investigation. Yep.
No, the
And-
way that they're all related,
Oh, yeah.
they're all so similar.
Yep.
And it's just really drives you crazy,
It does drive you crazy. It does, and
Power
I can't
corrupts,
wait.
huh?
I can't wait for your analysis of the Karen Reed case.
Oh my
So-
God.
So getting back on this, I've just got 2 more slides, and then we can go on to the Karen Reed case. So there's been no arrest in all these years, and of course the community is terrorized, thinking, how can 2 young girls simply disappear and are murdered? What the hell is happening? Because Delphi apparently is a very small type of county.
It's
Um,
tiny. It's tiny. A tiny population.
There's, I think, only a few thousand people, and you know how whispers happen, right? So when they went back over the tips again, and apparently they received a massive number of tips, they found Richard Allen, and Richard Allen had said, hey, I was down there that day. I went to the trail. I checked the water to see if there were any fish. I went back home. Well, they picked this up 5 years later, and they called Richard in, right? And he was interrogated twice. And I'll talk about that in a second, because you've got no, you will not believe it. I thought I was watching the interrogation of Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey all over again, right? And so next week, I'm doing 2 podcasts with Jerome, looking at the Reed technique and how that was used on Richard Allen. So I'm looking at both interrogations. He only had 2, interrogation 1, interrogation 2. And I'm going to break that down and go over the tactics that were used. And that's why Susan was talking about the similarities in these cases. It is shocking. And if you
Bad.
think it can't happen to you, you wait till you see the breakdown of these interrogations. It can occur to you. So Richard went into the police station and he was questioned the very first time. And don't worry, I'll break all that down when I do the podcast with Jerome. And he basically he got the inkling that he was being treated as a suspect, but he wasn't arrested. So he walked out. At the end of the interview, he walked out, right? However, the law enforcement officers weren't finished with this guy, with Richard. They got a search warrant. And later, after they went to his house and looked at his car, looked at things in his house, he got re-interviewed again. But they called him into the police station thinking he was there to pick up his car. Remember Nick Hillary? The same thing happened to him. He got brought in for questioning under false pretenses. Alice.
Wow, really?
Oh, yeah. So
Really?
Richard Allen comes back into the police station thinking, oh, I'm here to pick up my car. And then the second interrogation by Holman. Oh my God. If you
But
thought
sure,
Fassbender and Wiegert were bad, you wait till you hear about Holman. Alice.
sure. I can't believe you've just said that. But like I says, I don't really know much about this particular case.
Yep.
I've heard wee bits and bobs about it, but not a lot. But
Yep.
geez,
It's bad, Alice. It's really bad. It's really bad.
Very, very bad.
Did his lawyers pick up on that though? That he was there on false pretenses, surely.
Oh, don't worry. This is another case like Willis and Fox. They blocked everything. And what basically the Judge Gull, I think her name is, she basically blocked everything. She hamstrung the defense. And I think in one case even dismissed the defense team. So all the shenanigans are there. Anyway, I don't want to take up too much of the people's time here. So when Richard was being interrogated by Holman, this was a full-on interrogation. And they were showing him pictures, photographs. Anyway, the crux of the matter is they took his gun that he had at home, a Sig Sauer 266, I think, pistol, and it takes 40 caliber rounds. What I didn't tell you is that at the crime scene, between the girls' bodies, was one unspent bullet, unspent, never fired, and it was found on the ground between the girls. They took that bullet. Now you wait for it, Jack 61, Alice and Susan, and they sent it to the crime lab. And the crime they asked, I think her name was Melissa Oberg, and they said to her, "Look, can you link this bullet to this guy's gun?"
Oh, no.
Right? Do you get the impression of Ida Meffel all over again?
Aye, just
Boy,
a wee bit.
Boy,
Just a little.
Unreal.
So no one in 5 years has said, "See that guy on the bridge? That's Richard Allen." No one has identified him. So now the police are going, well, he admitted being at the crime scene, but according to Richard, he had left way before the girls got there. We don't believe him. So now they asked Melissa Oberg to look at this cartridge, unfired bullet, and see if she could link it to the gun, his gun.
Doc, that bullet had been ejected from a gun.
Ejected from
Yes.
a gun. That's
Yes.
that's
Not
their
fired.
theory. It was not fired. It had
Yeah.
not gone through the chamber. It had not been fired. It was just
Right.
laying on the ground. Apparently it was in the dirt. And they asked Richard, well, did you have a gun with you that day? He goes, hell no. Why am I going to bring a gun? Have you ever been to this area before? Did you eject any bullets? Did you loan the gun to anybody? And he goes, no, hell no. Melissa Oberg couldn't find a link to the bullet to the gun, to Richard Allen's gun. She couldn't.
She ejected that bullet out of his gun, and it didn't match.
It didn't match.
Make the same marks. Yeah,
correct. So the only way she could link the bullet to the gun is if she fired it through the chamber and then said, well, there's an agreement that bullet came out of his gun. So the actual analyst had to fire the bullet through Richard Allen's gun before it left the mark, and those marks, ejector marks on the bullet. But my understanding is that there were several other Sig Sauer guns that could not be removed as potentially having had that bullet ejected from that type of gun, the Sig Sauer 226 pistol. So now they're using the detectives.
let me get this straight, Doc. So they found a bullet that had not been fired between
Not
the
been
girls,
fired.
and the only way that the ballistics could match that
Match
bullet
it.
to Alan Gunn was to fire it.
Fire it. To fire it. Because when
Because I think it had these two little ejector marks on it.
Yes.
Sure.
So they could
Yes.
see that it had been ejected out of a gun.
Yes.
But when she ejected the test bullet, it didn't match.
Correct.
So then
she
she
couldn't.
fired it and found that I mean, talk about junk science, okay?
Correct. So now,
Gosh.
Crazy.
yep. So now that's the only way they can link Richard Allen to the crime scene. But the analyst had to do a modification to the bullet by firing it. And she said in her report, I read her report, oh, there's an agreement. And based on my expertise, I think there's a match. And I'm thinking to myself, item FL.
Oh my
So Richard Allen was arrested, as you know, and he faced trial, and he was found guilty of the double murder and is going to be spending 130 years in prison. But I forgot to tell you, when Richard Allen was interrogated, he flatly denied, and this is what I'm going to go over with Jerome when I go through the interviews. You got to see it. You're going to be shocked at what took place. He flatly denied ever seeing Abby or Libby and even being involved in the crime scene. Yeah, Sharif Cohen all over again. And anyway, when he got arrested, now listen to this. The lawyers for the state said, we want to shift Richard Allen from a jail to a prison. And the judge signed the order to put him in prison. And guess where they sent him? In solitary confinement in the worst jail in Indiana. Solitary confinement.
Keep him safe, right?
To keep him safe. And he had a concrete slab for a bed. The lights were on 24/7, and he was being watched 24/7 with cameras. And every 15 minutes, the guards will write down what he was saying. And
when they first started, the guards were actually other inmates. They weren't guards. They were babysitters that were there to watch him and record his every move.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there was no presumption of innocence at all. He got sent to a maximum security prison. Richard Allen suffers from anxiety, depression.
How's that legal?
The judge
How
signed
is that legal?
And then the judge recused himself. The judge recused himself, goes, I'm out of here, guys.
Yeah, and then they stuck go on there. But you know, they said the local jail couldn't keep him safe, couldn't guarantee his safety or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Doc, go ahead.
No. I'm nearly finished. So he was deprived of his normal rights. He was in solitary confinement, and he basically went crazy. And they injected him with all these antipsychotic drugs, and then he confessed. He had confessed, I think, 60 times. He goes, no, I did it. Now, if we have a look at the next slide, Jack 61, I'm nearly finished, guys. Sorry for carrying on like a pork chop. Case by case said, look, Dr. Suchman, do you mind checking out the DNA forensics in this case? So Andrea Burkhart was at the trial every day, and she took incredible, copious notes. And I know a little bit about DNA, right? So I looked at all the forensic evidence. Now, guys, the bottom line is, now wait for it. Do you think Richard Allen's DNA, blood, hair, tissue was anywhere at the crime scene?
No.
No, a big fat zero, right? And the analysts had some unknown hair samples that they didn't test at all. So, guys, I did a podcast on Case by Cases channel. We had over 400 people watching the podcast in chat. That's how hot this case is and how disturbing this case is at the moment. So quite clearly, they found no DNA evidence. The only thing that linked Richard Allen to the crime scene was the unspent .40 caliber cartridge that Melissa Oberg had to fire through a gun to say, yeah, I think the bullet came from the gun. And my final slide, Jack 61, is that next week I'm going to start a series of podcasts looking at the interrogations of Richard Allen. And I swear to God, you're going to think you're watching the interrogation of Stephen and Brendan. And it's all the way I'm going to break it down is having a look at the read technique and what the detectives used, the tactics that they used on Richard. Okay, so guys.
That center photo there, I think he had been in solitary for like 5 months, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Look at the difference in him from his interrogation.
Yep, I could talk for hours just on that. But guys, hopefully that gave you a bit of an insight into the Delphi case. I'm certainly now very interested in it. And next week, I'll be doing 2 podcasts with Jerome. So support Jerome. Come and check it out. Looking at, I'm going to do interrogation number 1 first, and then interrogation number 2, which is the real nasty one, looking at the read techniques. And you'll see the same tactics that the detectives used on both Stephen and Brendan. Thank you very much.
Just a couple of questions. I guess maybe more comments. Susan and I being from the United States, I got to tell you, I've got a real problem when you're saying that, and I knew this and I'd forgotten it, that they shifted Richard Allen to a prison after he was arrested. I can't tell you how wrong that is. Anyway.
Jack, I'll be back in a couple of minutes. I just need to take my medication. So give me a couple of minutes and I'll be back. But carry on, guys.
Sure.
For almost 2 years, Jack. Sleuthy,
yeah.
how long was he in solitary?
I'm sorry.
In Westville, and then they moved him to another prison after, 13 months or something. But put him in solitary once again. It's unconscionable. I don't know how that can be legal, Jack. His lawyers tried to get him out many times, and they just kept saying Westville was 18 months. Oh my God. Been there basically since his arrest. They brought him out for a couple months before his trial and brought him locally, but in solitary the entire time. And it's like illegal to leave anyone in solitary for like more than 30 days or something, very brief. I just don't know how he's not out just because of that, how inhumane, and it boggles the mind how they got away with that.
It does. Sunshine.
Yeah, the UK says it's considered torture after 30 days. The lights are on 24/7.
Yep.
It's noisy. People are screaming all the time. You got somebody with a camera on you constantly. Yep. Even when he would move around to go anywhere. I mean, it's just unreal. I just shake my head and like,
it's cruel. It's cruel and unusual punishment to me.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I mean, that's really saying you're guilty. We're going to throw you in prison and in solitary. All right.
Yeah.
And Sunshine was here and she disconnected.
She said she had no volume.
Oh.
She'll probably.
Okay.
I think she'll be back.
She'll be back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, I mean, aside from all the other stuff that Doc presented, that's really probably the most troublesome thing that I heard. I mean, when you think about it, because when you're put in prison, that's a presumption of guilt to me. That's what it says to the jury. That's what it says to everyone in the public. We throw it in the prison. You're guilty.
Hell, even when you're in jail in this country, you
it's
get
bad
arrested.
enough, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Cops must have something on you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what people think.
It is. We've had several new folks join us. Let's see here. Well, let me just go up here. Folks that I've never seen, and certainly want to welcome you. Sleuthy Goosey, Dirty Diana.
Sleuthy knows everything about this case.
Defies logic.
Everything.
Doc, there's a question for you.
It's in 2 days' time, so it's on my Tuesday. On my Tuesday.
Monday. That's our Monday.
Yeah, so it depends. Again,
and where is it going to be on case by cases?
No, on Jerome's channel with Jerome.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll put a link.
Post the link for Jerome's channel, Jack.
Yeah.
Yep.
Have you got that? Have you got that?
Yeah, I've got a link here.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah. So if I could...
Sorry, that's Defies Logic. The link I've just posted in the chat. That's for Jerome's channel. Please go over and hit the subscribe, and that will be the channel that Doc is on. That's with the lovely Jerome from Belgium.
From Belgium, yeah. So it's very, very interesting. And again, guys, I do want to apologize. I am by no means an expert in the Delphi murder case. For me to really understand the nitty-gritty, I've got to spend about 6 months easy, like the foul play team has done with the Avery and Dassey cases. But I can clearly see the issues. And I told Amy, I said that you guys studying this case, you're where we were 10 years ago. And it's very interesting, Jack, Susan, and Alice, that in the true crime community, there are those people that believe in the absolute guilt of Richard Allen. 100%. They believe he's guilty, shut the door, let him die in prison. And there are those that believe he's totally innocent. So you've got this massive division, right, guys? Right, Jack? Remember all the flack that we copped on X? You've got the same thing happening in the Delphi case. Same type of agitators, the same type of vigorous discussions. I personally see Richard Allen as a cross between Stephen and Brendan, because remember, Stephen never admitted having done anything to Teresa. And when we go through the interrogations, you'll understand why you believe that's the case, that he's very much like Stephen. Then he became like Brendan, who had confessed, right? But he got a lot of elements of the case completely wrong and admitted to have done all these other things that were patently false. And it goes to show what happens when you take an individual and you place them in solitary confinement worse than what you're going to find in, when was it that place in Cuba, Guantanamo Bay?
Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah.
Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah. It is so shocking that in a modern society, you can basically break down an individual, and he had gotten to a state whereby he was naked, banging his head. on the wall, eating his own feces from the toilet. He had been completely destroyed. And the way he confessed was that he wanted to have his wife spared. He didn't want any attention on his wife, and that's why he confessed. But you get a confession under the most brutal, archaic methods that anybody in the civilized world will look at this and go,
what?
That's the way you solicit a confession? By throwing someone with the presumption of innocence in solitary confinement. Susan, was it 13 months he spent in solitary
18.
confinement?
18 months.
Actually, it's been over 2 years now. But at Westville, which was the most horrible place, that was 18 months.
Yes.
And, you know, another comparison, Doc, with those interviews was what they did to his wife. When you see his wife come in,
yes,
they have convinced her of his guilt.
Correct.
What it appears to me. She's like, well, how did your bullet get there? They have convinced her, just like they convinced Stephen's family.
Correct.
They all had their doubts. Some of them, you know, went back and forth, but they at one time had convinced them all, except for his mother,
Correct,
that he was guilty. So yeah, I noticed that comparison, and that is to do that to his wife is just just so horrible. She's a very sweet lady.
Yep.
Sleuthy Goose.
She now believes in his innocence.
Yes.
Sleuthy Goose says he was never not in solitary confinement in a prison.
Right. And he was arrested October of 23.
I think 23 or 26, October 26.
22. Yeah, of the year though. But the year was 22. October 26th of 22. So yeah, it's been 2.5 years.
Yep. Correct.
And is there any word I'm getting a new trial or anything like that with all this coming out, or is it only just
putting in
they
the
haven't
appeal?
Yeah, they haven't done the appeal yet. They're working on it.
Yep.
Right.
And
his direct appeal.
Yep. And like I said, I'm more than willing to have a look at the DNA documents and transcripts when they come out. I'll definitely check them out because I'm very, very interested in the forensics aspects of this case.
If all will ever release them.
I think it's going to take years to do it because everything has been suppressed. And as you know, there are other potential suspects who are way, way up above in the tier of potential suspects than what Richard Allen was. And like I said, this poor guy walked in thinking he was helping the investigators by saying, hey, look, I'm here. And as a consequence of that, they tried to put him in a crime scene where I personally believe he never was. And it's quite shocking. It's quite shocking to the length that the detectives go, the investigators go to put you in the crime scene. He doesn't strike me as a child killer. And as you know, guys, and this is my final comment, as you know, you remember the murder of Teresa Halbach, a 25-year-old photographer, a young lady, her life all in front of her, and the way Kratz carried on in court, that Stephen Avery was a monster, etc., etc. Well, imagine the murder of 2 young children.
Exactly.
How that would have gone down. And you're in the courtroom and you're looking at this guy who's emancipated, a shell of himself, who's just spent 13 months in solitary confinement, can't see the sunlight, right? And is watched 24/7. And you're looking at him going, oh yeah, he's got to be the murderer.
Yep.
The criminal justice system is in big trouble, in my opinion.
Yeah, but see, that's the but probably not, Doc, because that's the problem. The problem is that these people keep getting away with it. The police,
Yeah.
the prosecutors, the judges, every
Yes.
single one of them keep getting away with it. How many cases upon cases upon cases have we heard of now? How many exonerations is there now because of bad prosecutors, bad judges, bad police, bad investigations? And these people are not held accountable. And
No.
That's the problem. That's the problem.
If these
How many people are stuck in prison that are innocent that have nobody, have no help?
Exactly, Susan. Exactly. They have been screaming for the rooftops since they've been put in there that they are innocent because they have been set up by a shitty investigation, shitty police, corrupt officers, judges, prosecutors, and it's not even that. It's these people on the jury as well. I know people say you can't blame the jury, but you can blame the jury because, but I mean, let me take that back because you can blame the jury, but you can't blame the jury because the jury can only go on what they're being told, what they're being shown.
Yes.
And if the prosecution is only showing the defense half of the evidence that they've got and holding stuff back, then how the bloody hell is a jury meant to get the decisions right? So I can't really blame it on the jury because it's not their fault, like if they've not got the information. But the judges, the police, the investigators, and the prosecutors, they should all be held accountable. And that is the problem.
Yeah.
Well, in this trial, the jury were able to ask questions. They were permitted to ask questions.
Yeah, certain states that's allowed.
Yeah, and there was obviously one or two jurors who were very, very clued up on the DNA, and the questions that they asked were fantastic. And I'm thinking to myself, my God, if these jurors had been part of the Avery case, Stephen would have walked, because they would have torn Cherie Cohen to shreds, because the questions that they were asking Stacey Bosanowski, who had done the forensics, the DNA forensics, was, well, what do you do for controls? And I'm there, yes, someone finally got it. How do you put away your samples? Do you lock them away? So they were already thinking about potential of contamination.
Good.
Right? And it was thank God someone finally bloody understood the DNA and the importance of control. But Stacey did a good job. She really did. She could not find Richard Allen's DNA on, I think they tested like close to 100 items. They tested the girls' clothing. They tested the swabs from the girls. Oh, and I forgot to say, there was no evidence of a SA assault, and there were no defensive marks on the girls.
That's really strange.
Which means, how can one man, Richard Allen is 5'4" tall. He's the same height as the girls. How was he going to overpower these two girls and march them across the river? You had to march them across the river because where the girls were murdered was across the river, and near that site there were private properties.
No defensive wounds. It sounds like they knew the person.
No defensive wounds.
Jack, you just took the words right out my mouth, Jack. I was just going to say that and all. That sounds like they lassies knew who the person was, especially if there was no defensive wounds or anything like that. I'm sorry, but two young, feisty, young lassies with one man, they're going to fight if he's trying to hurt one or the other. You know what I mean? And they would have fought. So to me, like Jack says, to me, they knew the person who they followed or took them there or whatever. But like I says, I don't know much about the case. I'm only going on what I'm hearing with yourselves and wee bits and bobs that I've seen. But for what I'm hearing, it sounds like they knew the person, whoever it was.
Well,
the crime scene is just very,
bizarre.
very strange.
Yep, very bizarre.
Libby was nude. You know, they were both cut on their necks. Their necks were sliced, several slices. Libby was nude, and she had blood on her hands, blood on her face. She had blood running upwards on her face. Abby was dressed in Libby's clothes.
Correct.
But her body was pristine.
Clean.
Her hands, no blood on her hands, no blood on her body.
That is so strange.
Yep.
Yeah, and then these sticks on their body.
Yes.
Various things. There wasn't really enough blood there with, you know, with their injuries. It doesn't appear to me that there's enough blood. There's like a pool of blood, a spot of blood, several feet from their bodies.
Yes.
It's all very strange. There's blood on a tree.
Yep.
But some people think is in the form of an F. There's this whole Odin theory that the law enforcement uncovered. This is not a defense theory. This is from law enforcement investigation
and
into this case.
The judge
threw all. Nope, you can't talk about that.
Out. So in other words, like the Avery and Dassey cases, no third-party Denny's.
And these sticks on their bodies, people think that they are replicas of ruins.
Ruins, yep.
RUNES.
Doc and Susan, wasn't there an older man that lived nearby? Maybe that property itself.
Ron Logan. They were on his property, actually.
Yep.
Ron Logan. He was a suspect.
Yeah, I was going to say,
who they ended up clearing.
Yes.
He died also. He is not alive anymore.
Yep.
But he was a very mean person. I've seen an interview with an ex-girlfriend of his. So he was a monster, the way he treated her.
Yep.
Wow.
So there's some real bizarre stuff happening. So like I said, guys, please, I don't mean no disrespect. I'm not an expert in the Delphi murder case, but I hope that some people in chat will go, oh, okay, this will be a great case to study and take it on. And I know there are people in chat because I recognize some of the names who were in case by cases chat. We had over 400 people in there, and it was really, really buzzing, and it was just truly amazing. I could only do something really deep dive once I get my hands on the transcripts and the reports, and I'll definitely do that. Like we've done with Stephen, like we've done with Brendan, deep dives, and don't worry. My final comment. Once all this comes out and there's hopefully a retrial, post-conviction, etc., I think Delphi need to save up and put aside at least $100 million. This is bad. I don't believe Richard, personally, I don't believe he had anything to do with the murder of either Abby or Libby. This is the work of some sick, demented child sex predators Richard Allen, the guy, like everyone's looking at this guy saying, who? Him? He works at the chemist. What do you? Yeah, everyone was shocked. Everyone was shocked.
Yeah.
Now, Doc, you can find like the pre-trial documents, which I would suggest you go through. You'll be shocked there. This judge is the worst.
Yeah.
I mean, Canoni is bad for Karen Reed, but Judge Gold, there's no words. No words. What she got away with.
I know that Amy and several other YouTubers have got a depository of information, and looked at a lot of stuff, looked at a couple of the trial exhibits. All the crime scene photos, they're sealed. No one's going to get to see them. Apparently there was a leak of some of them.
That's why his lawyers got thrown off the case.
Correct. Yeah, somebody went in his office.
Someone working in in their
office.
Photos. Yeah. And they had nothing to do with that.
No.
With him getting a hold of those, and she threw him off the case. They had to go to the Supreme Court to get back on, and they put them back on the case.
Yep. But Sleuth is correct. They can't actually put Richard at the crime scene. There's nothing that links him to the crime scene, apart from the so-called forensic bullet evidence, which, you know, even the FBI are going, mate, what are you doing? What are you doing? This is so freaking subjective. What the hell? And when you think about how brutal this murder was, the crime scene, this reminds me of Brendan Dassey when he was saying that they had done all these horrendous things to Teresa Halbach, and he forgot to mention the fact that she was dismembered. Not one drop of blood of Teresa anywhere, right? Yeah. And with Richard, despite murdering 2 girls, and remember, he had to have touched the girls because he redressed one of them. Nothing, no fingerprints, no digital footprint, no DNA, no hair, nothing. And the guy is going to potentially die in prison. It's
so didn't they get a lot of DNA mixes on?
Yes.
On Libby or?
Yes, they found the DNA of an unknown male, but I have a feeling they actually don't have a profile. And I remember telling Amy in the podcast, I have a feeling all they did was check for the Y chromosome. So that's how they detect for the presence of a male, if they detect the Y chromosome. Right. They obviously don't have a profile. If they had a profile, they could run it through CODIS. And if they've got a profile, they can compare it to Richard's and say, mate, there's a match. You were there, or no match, you weren't there. But in terms of a DNA profile of Richard, none. 0.
They did, however, get one of the lab workers, right? A lab tech who was also, I believe he was also ISP.
Correct. Yeah. Yes, correct. So one of the lab techs contaminated the clothing of the one that Abby was wearing.
I mean, so there's similarities. An Ordoc with Luke's case is unbelievable. You know, Jodie was decapitated, stabbed, eyelids cut, everything. No blood, no DNA Luke's on Jodie, no Jodie's DNA on Luke. And he's in the jail for something that he never done. You know, it's just mind-boggling that these people are getting away with doing this to innocent people. I mean, it's starting to become guilty before innocent.
Oh, yes.
You're guilty, and you have to prove that you're innocent. No, the other way about. And that's it seems to be happening everywhere, but by God, it happens a fucking lot in America. You know what I mean? It's just mind-boggling the amount and the mere exonerations that are coming out. I mean, especially over the last couple of years, poor men that have spent 30, 40. I'm sure there was even one guy who'd spent 50 odd years in
prison.
Jail, and it got proven by DNA that he never done a bloody thing.
Yep.
That poor
man. It happens
man,
every day. It happens every day.
It's ridiculous, Susan. It really is. And it's happening here as well. I mean, it's just, I mean, there's Luke, there's Andrew Malkinson, there's another guy called Michael as well. They've all been sent, and some of them have done like 18 years and 12 years and things like that. prison time, and they're trying to get compensation for our government, and it is basically impossible for these men to be able to get compensation for our government, because no matter what compensation that they get, our government is going to take maybe 25%, 40%, just depending how long they've been in, for bed and board.
Yes, I heard that.
Oh my
For
God.
bed and board.
Bed and board.
So not only have they spent 18 years and 16 or 12 years, whatever it was for Michael, in prison for something that they didn't do, my government is going to charge them for putting them up and giving them a roof over their head, 3 meals a day, fucking an hour or so or whatever it is that they get for recreation.
Yep.
And they have to pay my government for
Correct.
that.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's
insane.
Just baffling. It is baffling. At least some of your people actually get compensation. And, you know, yeah, you might have to fight for some of it. You know, these people maybe wait years before they get compensation. But my government give you compensation and then take it right back off you, because they've had to feed you for the last 18 years. It's ridiculous.
Yep. So guys, that's all I really have of the Delphi murder case. Like I said, join me and Jerome next week. We're going to do 2 podcasts, smaller podcasts where we break down the interrogations. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually show you the text, the
transcript.
I've got the transcripts of the interrogations, like we've got for Brendan and for Stephen, and give examples of how things suddenly changed during the interrogations. It's frightening. Okay.
Yeah. All right. That's been an excellent introduction to the Delphi case. Did you have something else to add, Doc? I'm sorry.
No, I'm all good.
Okay. All right. Let's shift gears and talk about the Karen Reed case. And I'm going to tell you, I'm no expert. Of course, you know, when it happened, yeah, I saw it. But at the time, I didn't dive into, you know, any kind of deep thing. I was still doing really busy with the Avery Dassey stuff, you know, when this really got going. And I just didn't have time. It wasn't that there was a lack of interest. And that goes for the Delphi case too, you know, but there's only so much time in a day, right? So anyway, so let's talk about the Karen Reed case. And just a introduction, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to say some things. Susan, you're far more in depth with this than I am. If I get something wrong, you know, you can bonk me in the head and say, no, Jack, that's incorrect. I'm going to be mixing some of the older stuff to what we know now, because trial 2 has started, and there's been some things that came out that I had no idea. I'm not sure that anyone actually did. But, you know, look, again, I know that there's people out there right now that say she's guilty. She did it. She smashed him with the car. She said this and she said that. But
mainstream media.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, of course, and
not all of them. No, some are coming around.
Yes. So there's context to just like anything else. You know, you have to try to be in the moment and the context of what was going on. Now, I'll tell you, I mean, there's several great YouTubers actually out there that are on this case. I follow mainly the DUI guy. I really like him. The Lawyer You Know. I think that's another one that's doing podcasts as well. So anyway, let's talk about this. And let's never forget, John O'Keefe is, you know, he lost his life. This is ultimately, yeah, it's about Karen, of course, because she's the accused. But, you know, this guy lost his life. And he, from all accounts that I can find, he was a good guy. He had a brother, I think, that got killed or died.
No, his sister, Jack. His sister died of a brain tumor.
Yeah.
And then her husband died 2 months after that, and they had two small children.
Right, and he took him. Him and Karen, John O'Keefe. I mean, he's the kin because John and Karen are not married. They've been together for a while, but they're not married. But they clearly love each other. I mean,
they dated in high school for a short time, and then went their separate ways. And during the pandemic, John reached out on Facebook to several old friends that he knew, and Karen was one of them. Sure. And they kind of got together after that.
There you go.
Started dating. Yeah.
So this goes back to 34 Fairview Lane. Is that right? Is that the house?
34 Fairview.
Yeah.
So road.
The night, I think this was at end of January 2022, isn't that right?
Yeah, the 29th.
Yep.
And so John and Karen had went out drinking, and they met up with I think the McAlberts.
Or the Albert. With a bunch of the Albert family. John was a Boston cop.
Yes.
And he met up with a bunch of cops and their wives, basically. Some that weren't cops, but sure. Friends for drinks. Mm-hmm.
And then they stayed at one place for a while, and then they went to another place. Is that right? That's correct too, right?
Yes. Yeah, they left the street a little way down the road, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's where they met up with their friends. They had friends at the other bar, but then Karen and John left and went to the Waterfall Bar, which was across the street, and met up with all these cops and wives and some other friends.
Right. Yeah. So then around midnight, I'm sorry, Alice, go ahead.
No, it's everybody started calling it McAlbert's, but it's no. You've got the McCabe's.
I know. I apologize for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
McCabe's and the Alberts. Yeah.
Everybody now calls the mall, clumps them all together and calls them the McAlberts.
Yeah, I mean but there's a reason for that. I mean,
yes, because to me, they were all at this after party. Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
I mean, many of the Alberts, and it's the Alberts house, and also McCabe's. So several McCabe's.
So around midnight or so, they decided to leave the Waterfall Bar and go to this after party at the Albert's house. Brian Albert, as I understand it, that house has been in his family for decades, and he was the current owner.
He's a Boston cop too.
Now the Boston cop, yep. But Karen didn't want to go, but John did, so she dropped him off. And they're all of them are relatively hammered by this point. It's hard to say.
Jack, he was supposed to go in and just double check that
correct house.
They were welcome. And Karen really didn't want to go in, but he was supposed to go in, check, and then come back out.
Yes.
And tell her. Yeah.
Yes. And he didn't. When she waited,
right. She waited for 10 minutes or something. Yeah.
She was getting pretty pissed about it too. And she ultimately drives off and goes home. Right. And of course, she's like I said, they've all been drinking, so there's really no real sober person in the group, from what I can tell.
That's
anyway, I guess I can't remember here. I think Karen maybe laid down for a little while and then woke up, and John still wasn't home, and she started trying to contact him. I don't remember the exact time of that. Maybe you can remember, Susan.
Well,
4 o'clock.
She arrived home at 12:36. She connected to the Wi-Fi at John's house, just at John's house at 12:36, and she called and texted him. I don't know how many times. She was really mad because she thought he had gone in there and just started partying and left her out there.
Just
So
ghosted her.
Yes, she was accusing him of screwing somebody else. You know, she was just really mad and screaming at him on the phone and texting
Well, not
him.
thinking that not thinking something could be wrong, I'm sure. I mean,
Well,
he's
heck
going
no. She thought he'd
Right.
gone in there and just, you know, abandoned her,
Struck-
basically.
Right.
She tried
Struck it up.
texting him while she was sitting out there waiting for him. She tried
Right.
calling him. He didn't answer anything.
Yeah.
And so she got home and she was up for a while, and then she fell asleep on the couch for a couple hours, I think. She woke up at like 4:30 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, something like that. And he wasn't home.
Right.
And his daughter, his niece basically, was in the house upstairs, and John would never not come home, you know, because his children were there.
Right.
So she got really worried at that point.
Yeah, because she was meant to stay at Canton that night either, Susan. She was meant to be going out with him, and then she was driving him home because that was in the message. Well, I need you to drive me home. You know what I mean? So she was meant to be driving him home, and then she was going home to her, or whatever it was. But she wasn't meant to be staying there that night. But she had to because
her house was about 30 minutes away. Yeah, but you know, from their text messages, you can see that she hadn't really quite decided what she was going to do. But I think at some point she may have told him she was going to go home that night. There was this huge blizzard coming. It just started barely snowing about midnight.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I've heard people going on, like somebody said in the chat, she called like 56 times. Aye. So what? So she called them 56 times. If you're pissed off with your partner and they're out on the piss while you're in watching Wayne's and everything like that, and they're no answering their phone when you're phoning them, they're no answering your messages. You're damn right you're going to be pissed off, and you're going to keep phoning them and phoning them and phoning them and phoning them, because I bloody would.
Well, if you listen to the text messages that they had the day before, which would have been the day that, you know, they went out drinking later that night, and then it turned into the 29th. But if you listen to they were having a little bit of a argument. I don't know. John had said something to Karen that morning. He was nasty to her, and she was, you know, she wanted to talk about it, and she was at home and he was at home, and she was trying to get him to talk to her about it, and he kept rejecting her calls. I mean, he rejected a lot of her calls. They had some texts back and forth, but he kind of ignored her then as well.
Yeah,
so they were having a bit. So they were having a bit of a. They're having a bit of a tiff.
Yeah, just not a big deal.
Right.
You know, John. I think what John was jealous of the kids' affection for Karen. I think underneath it all, he you know, accused her of spoiling them. He didn't like the way she spoiled him and stuff like that, and so they would bicker about that all the time.
What family does bicker about that, though?
Yeah,
Susan?
right.
You know,
yeah, exactly. It was a normal, you know, lover spat with trying to raise these two kids. You know, they're not married.
Exactly.
They're not. Neither one is the actual parent.
Exactly. I was
you can imagine.
It's like it's a step family, so there is always going to be one that's going to try and treat them, you know, and stuff like that, and the one that is, you know, the custodian is the one that said, look, stop doing this and stop doing that and everything. It happens in every family. So to try and make a big deal out of this is ridiculous, in my opinion.
Yeah, and Karen worked at Fidelity. She was an investment advisor. But during the COVID in 2020, she started working from home. So she was home with the kids all the time. So she basically, you know, took care of those kids. John was a police officer, so he, you know, he was out of the house. So she spent a lot of time with those kids. And I think he was getting a bit jealous of how close they had become, is what it seems to me. And it really bothered him. But anyway, so they had this little thing earlier, and then they made up. And then they met up for drinks, and it's all on video. And you can see, you know, they were kind of lovey-dovey, and they had a great night. Everybody that was with them said, you know, there was no argument. There was nothing. They were, you know, happy and having a good time, basically.
Right. So
there's
anyway. Go ahead, Susan.
Well, I don't know if you've seen this, Jack, but there's some very interesting video from the Waterfall Bar that shows an interaction between these cops and John. There's so much involved in this. Oh my gosh.
Well, you know, I haven't brought up, you know, Brian Higgins.
Yep, he was one of them. Higgins was the one that, you know, Karen actually started flirting with Higgins a few weeks before in text, and they had a little flirty kind of thing going on for a little while, and then she stopped.
She shut it down. Yeah.
And he was all hot for her.
Oh yeah.
So you could see this little interaction in the bar right as they're leaving. And it's like Higgins is calling John out. And he even texted John after he left the bar, "You coming here to the house?" So there's, you know, there's a lot behind it that wasn't brought out in court the last time in trial 1, but I think it's going to in trial 2, because I don't even think the defense discovered this footage. It's, you know, it's not very good video. It's from
it's low quality. It's low quality
surveillance camera. But you can definitely see what's going on.
Yeah. Hey, anyway. Sunshine, are you able to?
Well,
hello?
I outsmarted my iPhone, so there's that. And I can hear y'all. So I'm on the iPhone at the moment. While the laptop does an update that I thought it had done 3 days ago, but apparently not. So, yep, I can hear y'all. And I'm guessing we're talking about Karen Reed.
Yeah, we've moved on to the Karen Reed case. So I'm just laying out, you know, some of the things I know, some of the facts of the case. You know, a little, there's going to be, and this is going to be me and some of my opinion that I'm going to talk about later on, but let's move on to the next part. So Karen is frantically worried. She was pissed, and now she's worried to death. Where the hell's John at? What's going on? He's not home. He's not answering. He's not answered anything. So she, as I understand it, she felt like, no, she backed her car out, and I think that's when she hit that other car and you know, banged her tail light. If I'm remembering right, that this is something that I didn't know about until recently. Anyway,
she backed into John's car. Yes.
And she drove back over there, right?
She before she left the house, she made a couple of phone calls to Jen McCabe and Carrie Roberts. First Carrie Roberts, and then Jen McCabe.
Yeah.
Carrie Roberts was a very close friend of John's. She wasn't at the house that night. She didn't go to the bar, but she was a close friend of John's. Jen McCabe, it was her sister's house where the after party was. And she and her husband were there that night. So she called both those women freaking out. And they told her that Jen told her, or Carrie told her to come to her house. She ended up going to Jen's house. They all met up there and then got in
Jen's car.
Jen's
car,
car,
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they went back over to, and this is like going on 6 a.m. Am I correct?
This is probably about 5:30, 5:40, something like that.
So they go back over to 34 Fairview Road, and that's when they found him outside the house.
No.
No? Okay. I'm confused.
Yeah.
Here. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're right. They first went back to John's house for some weird reason. Jen McKay wanted to go back there and see if John was there. And then they went to 34 Fairview. And they got there around 6 o'clock. You're right, John. Jack.
Okay. And of course, I think it was Jen McCabe that dialed 911 to get, people there. And then she knows the Alberts. And so she goes in, and there's some, I'm going to talk about this, agree, disagree. I'm okay either way. This is just my thoughts. So she goes in, he's found outside there. I guess I don't know how bloody he was, but regardless of that, she goes in and I guess roused up Brian Albert and,
Not until after his body was gone in the ambulance, until when she went in the house. She didn't go in right away.
Okay.
Nobody went in right away.
No.
All the cops that were there, nobody.
Well, we'll get into that weirdness here in a minute, but she does eventually go in and gets them awake, and Brian doesn't go outside. Now, I'm just a regular dude. I'm not a cop. But if somebody found any dead person outside my home, I'm going outside, find out what the hell's going on.
In the front yard.
I don't know about in the front yard near feet from my door. I'm going outside to find out what the hell's going on. He did.
Hell yeah. All the cops that are out there,
Especially if I was a cop.
Flashing lights, ambulance, Karen screaming.
Screaming. Yes.
John, oh my God. And he doesn't hear a thing. He's a
They
cop.
also had a German Shepherd in their bedroom, and their bedroom was right above where John was laying. I mean,
exactly, Susan, exactly. The German Shepherd would have reacted big time. And I know personally, I've owned German Shepherds, and they react.
There's no dog barking in all of the footage, and I believe that they took the dog out of the house that night.
I do too.
After it all went down.
I do too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll get more into that. But then, again, I'm going to move on just a little bit. Proctor, what's Proctor's first name?
Michael
Proctor. He is a Massachusetts state trooper, relatively high rank.
He was.
Yeah, he
I
was.
call him a Massachusetts state asshole.
Well, I do too, because, I didn't know about this phone call that existed. That this is a recent discovery for me, that between, I think, him and I don't know the other cop he was talking to, but he talked to this other cop and was telling him, what was going on and what was found at the Albert's house. And the other cop said, well, I guess this is going to be a problem for him. And Proctor basically said, no, it's really not.
He's a Boston cop too.
Yeah. And Proctor,
nope.
Proctor never went into the Albert's house. He never went inside. I just, for the life of me, I don't understand that. Despite everything else that may have went on outside, he doesn't go inside and interview the people. The lead detective.
Yeah.
He doesn't go inside.
And that, by the way, that text was to a group of high school buddies.
Okay. Well, there you go. I couldn't remember. I thought it was a phone call, but and that brings up another.
Text, and they have it in text. They have all his texts.
Yeah, right. The phone call that you could be on about, Jack, is the Jen McCabe 911 call or whatever it is. It's 999 here, but the emergency call, and there's a guy on the front lawn. I'm sorry.
Pissed out in the snow.
Yeah. If you knew that that's your beloved friend, like she said on the stand,
and he's a cop.
Exactly. You would say, police officer down. John O'Keefe is lying on the front lawn of somebody's garden, even if she didn't want to say whose house it was. You know what I mean?
Sister's house.
She could have easily have said, police officer down, John O'Keefe on the front lawn of somebody's garden. The response would have been a hell of a lot better than what it was.
Well, first, Sunshine, did you have something to add a minute ago? We were yapping kind of over you.
No, not really. Just basically what y'all are saying. I'm a police officer, but I'm not nosy about what's on my front lawn.
Right. So, Doc?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of videos. I mean, I don't know much about the Karen Reid trial, but this, I want to swear, but you know what I'm going to say. It's a CEF, right?
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. It's such a convoluted case, and it smacks of protectionism, right?
And it gets much worse.
We haven't gotten to the planting yet.
Yeah, the main people involved here are all law enforcement officers. This reminds me very much of Trial 4. Again, Boston.
Yes.
It's exactly the same MO. It's a form of protectionism.
Cops, protecting cops. Yeah.
Correct. The thin blue line.
But then you have a dead cop as well. So it depends on what cop it is. They're all groupies. Like.
True.
Yeah.
Well, then it gets revealed, and I just found this out as well. I may have known it before and I had forgotten. But Proctor is good friends with the Alberts.
Yes.
What I mean good friends. The Alberts had watched the Proctor's children, as I understand it, babysat them. So that's a pretty close relationship.
Proctor's mother called the McCabe's. I think it was the McCabe's. They're like a second family.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
And for me, again, I'm just a regular dude out here, but understanding this close relationship with Proctor to the Alberts. Hey, that's your friend. I understand that, but you recuse yourself. You have to step aside and hand that off because you want your investigation. You want your investigation to be clean, and this was nowhere. And I mean, for me, again, this is just my opinion from what I see, outside looking in. Actions and events of what occurred, but he didn't do that.
The investigation makes Avery's investigation look pristine.
Oh my God, does it ever? It just gets awful. So anyway, I'm gonna put up a picture here in a minute, and it's an autopsy picture of John, part of him. And when I first saw this, my it all came out, or the cops were accusing Karen of, and I'm kind of jumping ahead here a little bit, that she hit him with her car. All right. And I got to tell you, again, I'm just a regular dude out here. And I'm going to tell you, this doesn't look anything like somebody hit with a car, but we'll get more into that. Anyway, I'm a little fuzzy about the events that occurred immediately after, John's taken away. But I know the focus went to Karen pretty quickly, right?
Very
Susan,
quickly.
anything you want to add anything to that before I step forward a little bit?
Well, a couple of cops did come to the house after John was long gone to the hospital, and went in and had a little powwow with Brian and Nicole Albert, whose home it was. I'm trying to think. It seems like there was someone else there, Matt McCabe maybe, and Jen McCabe, because she was with Karen. But they all sat around a table and talked together. It wasn't like they interviewed them separately, recorded any interviews. They had a chance to sit around, all of them together, and talk about this before any cop ever came into the house.
Yeah, like a timeline, Susan. They sat down and made a timeline.
That was a couple days later. That was Carrie Roberts and Jen McCabe doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sat down and wrote a timeline.
They never did proper interviews. They never looked for Ring camera. There was a Ring camera right across the street, who happened to be he was a cop too.
Jen McCabe went to one of the cops' houses.
Was what?
She went to one of the cops. Was it Lank's house? I know.
Yes, that too. That was on the 30th, I think.
So they phoned the DA and demand shit.
They didn't canvass the neighborhood. They didn't do anything. They searched the crime scene a few hours later. That's when they brought the snowblower and blew away where John had been laying, found some spots of blood and a broken cocktail glass. That's all they found. They put the blood in Solo cups that they got from the cop across the street and put those Solo cups in a shopping stop bag, like a convenience store brown paper bag.
Yep.
I mean, it's just a joke. It's an absolute joke collecting forensic evidence like that.
Let's back up.
And then they left the scene. They left it unsecured.
Yeah.
They left nobody over the scene. They didn't put up yellow tape. There was a blizzard going on. But, a cop could have sat in his car and kept an eye on that scene until,
should have.
Yeah. I mean, it's just insane.
Let's back up a couple hours, because there's some other events. Again, I didn't know this until recently. And I believe it was around 2:27. And there's testimony to this about phone calls between Brian Albert and is it Brian Higgins? Is that his
Higgins?
First name? Brian?
Yep. At 2:22 a.m.
Yeah, there's a 20 or 22 second call or something like that between them. But they testified they didn't talk to each other. But they have the phone records. They did talk to each other.
They testified that they each butt dialed each other.
Yeah.
Brian Albert called Brian Higgins and he didn't pick it up. But seconds later, Brian Higgins called Brian Albert back and they talked for 22 seconds and they both claim they were butt dials.
Yeah. And Jen McCabe, or is it Jen McCabe, phoned her sister and phoned somebody else, but they were all butt dials.
A bunch of calls to John during the time that she says he was outside
but
in Karen's car. She says they were all butt dials. She called like 6 or 7 or 8 times in a row. They're all butt dials. But
there's more. It was at 2:05 around 2:30 a.m. I think.
2:27.
Well,
Jim McCabe.
was it? Well, no. You can go and say that before I say what I'm going to say.
Jim McCabe's phone showed that at 2:27 a.m. she Googled how long to die in cold.
Yeah. But it was a mistype.
She misspelled it. She misspelled it H-O-S.
Yeah,
Can I make a comment?
Please.
Any one of these, if Stephen Avery had done it, right, all these things that you're talking about on the shopping list, they would have said guilty, 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 correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
And because of all these unforeseen circumstances like butt dials, ring camera, a video just disappearing, people getting rid of their mobile phones, no one sees anything nefarious. It is simply, I'm listening to this going, you got to be kidding, right?
It gets worse. It gets worse, Doc. It gets worse, Doc.
It gets worse, Doc.
So then, it was around 2:30. Higgins, was it Higgins that showed up at the Canton Police Department?
At 1:30, Jack.
1:30?
After he left the Albert's house. Yeah, he went back to the police station.
For some reason. we
some
don't
reason.
really. Yeah, we don't really know why.
He's got an office
To do administrative duties. He
police
claims.
station.
Moving cars around for the blizzard, for the snow.
But hadn't he been drinking?
He went back at that time in the morning to move cars. That was his excuse.
Well, he's got a couple different excuses, but he drank all day. He drinks Jameson and ginger.
Oh my God!
And he lost his badge and his son.
Oh, that wasn't him. That was Chris Albert. That was a different incident, but yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I wanted to interject that because I just found that out recently. Again, I'm going off memory. I didn't make a list because this is kind of more of a general conversation to get some of the things that we know. And there's going to be a running trial 1 versus trial 2 comparison because unfortunately for a lot of these witnesses, they're locked in on what they testify. That's I mean, Doc, what is really what does the law consider the truth? And that's what happens at trial, right?
That's correct. What's in the trial is regarded as the truth. You can't change it.
Right. They're locked in.
Correct.
So anyway, let's step forward a little bit. So they take John away. Proctor's on the case, and I know it was pretty early that morning. They go after her car. He goes after her car, right? At some point. Now they're searching around. Okay.
That afternoon, yeah.
Right. And he has, we found out also recently, he has possession of that car before any of the taillights found because they haven't found anything. There's been 2 searches.
Right. That's right. And this is after Jen McCabe was interviewed, and Jen McCabe saw Karen's cracked taillight. She knew it was cracked. It wasn't completely gone.
Broken. Right. It wasn't broken.
Yeah. Like most of it's gone, and they say that's what it was. But yeah, it was just cracked because she had backed into John's car in the driveway.
Yes.
So Proctor knew it was cracked. I think Jen came up with this whole story after she saw that cracked taillight, actually.
Well, let's just gonna bring it, and then suddenly he goes over there and he finds 43 different pieces or something of that nature.
Over 3 weeks' time, John.
47 teeth.
Over 3 weeks. They didn't find it all that day. They found 3 or 4 pieces to start with.
Yeah, and then they
left the crime scene again. No, they left it unsecured.
Yeah.
And over the next 3 weeks, as the snow was melting, they were told They were told, hey, you're on your way to the station, which was less than 2 miles away. Drive by the Albert House and see if you see anything. And they claim over these 3 weeks, they're finding pieces of taillight and bringing it in and end up with 47 pieces.
Hey, Doc, as an outsider looking in, what do you think?
Andy's shoe.
Absolutely freaking insane. I've been checking our Discord channel. Oh, my God. The discussion on the Reed case is just off the charts.
Oh, it's insane.
Yeah.
The state claims that she backed into John's arm. And that's how he got the scratches from that tail light exploding into 47 pieces and cutting his arm up. He doesn't have a bruise below his nose, all the way down his body. He's got a defensive bruise on the back of his right hand, I think. But that's it. And he's got a big gash in the back of his head. And he's got 2 black eyes. And he's got damage to his temple area.
Yeah.
He's got a bunch of skull fractures as well.
Yes. Well, that's something that's another thing. We'll get more into that, Doc, and then I'll have Alice. I think she has a couple of things to add.
Yeah. Alice. Yeah, you go, Alice.
Oh no. I mean, it's just like Susan was saying. I mean, they're trying to say that she hit him with his car at 25 miles an hour.
Backing up.
Meant to reversing 25 miles an hour. And John just puts his arm out and she hits his arm. There's no broken bones at all in his arm, on his body, from the neck down, nothing. And the Commonwealth is still going ahead with this case. It is the physics. Now, I don't know a lot about physics, but they just do not comply. It does not compute. It is ridiculous.
They charged her with 2nd-degree murder.
Yep, because they're trying to say that he was hit with this motor. There is no way in hell that guy was hit with any motor whatsoever, because he would have other injuries on his body just with the force, whether it's 20 miles an hour, 25 miles an hour, the force of how that hitting, there would have been more brokenness in his body, in my opinion.
Well, I think he would have been bruised.
6,000-pound car. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna put this up. This is kind of a gruesome photograph. This is your graphic warning. I mean, it's not terrible, but
his arm.
I want to get Doc to give his opinion about this and what he thinks about it. But again, please, everyone, if you're a little squeamish, you can look away for a minute. I won't leave it up too awfully long. And let's talk about this, because to me, I can tell you what I think it looks like.
Yeah, I remember seeing this picture, and there's a lot of discussion in the Discord channel. And this is very reminiscent. Remember the scratches on Bobby Dassey's back?
Yeah.
And they asked him, they said, "Where'd you get these scratch marks?" Because my puppy did it. And when I first saw those marks, to me, that's indicative of a dog attack. Either a dog biting or scratching or jumping on top of.
Or both.
Yeah.
Biting
or both.
Scratching. Yeah.
Or both. And it's really interesting because normally when an animal bites like that, the dog leaves saliva in the wounds, which means that I'm amazed. Did they actually do the swabbing of the wounds to detect DNA?
They did not.
No.
See,
they swabbed his shirt.
His shirt.
And it came back as pig DNA. There's pig DNA.
Yep. Yeah. See, this is a classic case of cops, in my opinion, just my personal opinion, police looking after police. And remember, these are professional detectives. They know how to cover things up, and they know how to keep things quiet, to prevent investigations going in a particular direction. The first time I saw that, I'm there. That does not look like an accident resulting from a car. That looks like an animal attack. Now, is the state's theory that John never went inside the house? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. That's what all the people in the house have testified to.
Right. Whereas if he actually was in the house and attacked by a dog, that's exculpatory for Karen, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Karen can't hit her boyfriend or her partner if he's inside the house.
Correct.
And being attacked by a dog. So therefore, they've got to engineer this crime scene to blame it on Karen. Now, notice that because Karen bumped into John's car and had the cracked tail light or whatever it was, they're thinking, oh shit, how do we associate the cracked tail light with John? Yep. We're going to go with the theory that she collided into John. How do we explain all these marks? We'll blame it on the tail light. But if people who study victims that get hit in traffic accidents, they know the type of damage to expect. You talk to any emergency doctor, they already know what type of injuries you're going to sustain if you're hit by a vehicle. They prep for it. They're ready for it. When they look at an injury like this, they must be going, what's the name of the dog? And let me guess, they rehoused the dog and they sold their house, right?
They did.
Yeah.
Couple of months after the incident.
We had the dog for 7 years. She was the family pet for 7 years, and they just gave her away. And she also had reports of biting other people.
Yes.
Now, he is a Polis with a German Shepherd, which would have been probably used. I know German Shepherds are very, very protective, right?
They are.
Very, very, very.
And I was brought up with German Shepherds, so I know their temperament, I know how they can be and everything like that. And if anybody tried to attack anyone in my family, even my dad carrying on with me, if I let out a certain scream or anything like that and my Alsatian didn't like it, she was coming over and she was putting her mouth on my dad's arm. She wasn't, biting because she knew that it was mysterious, but that was her way of letting my dad know, no, don't do that. You know what I mean? I didn't like her scream. So to me, that is an animal attack. When I first seen it, I said that was a dog, and then I heard about the dog and everything like that.
Yep.
I think what happened is a fight has occurred in that house, and the dog, because its owners have been involved in this fight, it has attacked the person that is not the family member, which happens to be John, and they've got the dog off him, and the dog has left these marks. That's my opinion. And that's my opinion when I've seen it.
Yeah, when you think about it, if you see the dog running towards you, what's your first reflex action?
Put your arm up.
Exactly. And the dog is going to go for it.
First thing you do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
it's trying to protect its family.
Yep.
He's a stranger in that territory.
Yep.
And
he had never been to that house.
Exactly, Susan. So he's the stranger in the territory. That dog isn't going to go for the family members that are in the fight. It is going to go for the stranger that doesn't belong there. And that's exactly what's happened.
And also,
there's another problem forensically too, Doc. I want to get this in so you can understand. Allegedly, John was out there for basically 5.5 hours when they found him, and it was freaking cold. I don't know the temperature, but
allegedly, yeah,
it was well below freezing.
Yeah, 5.5, 18, I think.
Okay, his body didn't show any signs. His body didn't show any signs of hypothermia.
which
he didn't have any of that. So if he had laid out there that long, dying or dead or whatever, I think there would have been some signs of that in his body, and there was none.
Which tends to suggest that he was dumped after the fact.
Correct.
The medical examiner did rule he died from hypothermia as well as
injuries.
His head injury. Yeah.
Head injury. Yeah.
Yeah. But the defense team in their opening statement for trial 2 has a doctor that's going to say there are no signs of hypothermia. So
yeah, there's
that's a disputed.
I want to mention this and give a big shout out to DoubleDee. DoubleDee has provided me with a plethora of case files.
Cool.
There's a lot. Now, will we go over all of them? Probably not. But at the same time, from a comparison point from trial 1 to trial 2, I think they're going to be very important to have. And there's actually a channel, a YouTube channel, which we're going to get more into this as time goes on. They have all the trial footage, and it can be used for free. It can be used for free by anyone.
Yeah.
And they have all the sidebars cut out, and you know, it's just straight testimony, which is really nice.
It is.
Way to watch it, because there were a lot of sidebars.
If you notice on his arm, right in the middle, see those 3 marks? They look like teeth, whereas the other ones could either be teeth or claws.
Scratches.
That's right. Yeah.
And look, honestly, all you need to do is get the dog and measure the paws, and then spread them apart and have a look at the distance, right? And have a look to see claw marks, potentially claw marks. And again, wouldn't it be funny if they swabbed the paws of the dog? Because
you know what the prosecution did, Doc. They say they got Chloe just this past year, or even this year, and took dental molds. And they're going to try and prove it wasn't this dog because of the dentition. Who do we know that tried the old? Yes.
But the thing is right. The gentleman that's deceased, he could have been in a very defensive pose. The dog may not have got a very good grip.
His arms moving, you know.
And the skin is highly flexible.
Moves.
Right? Yeah. Highly flexible. And if the dog didn't get a proper bite and he went to put his arm away, you would have got those tear marks, right? You don't have to be a genius to realize that those scratches look to me like bite marks and also scratches from the dog's paws. And if the dog is attacking, right, you think about it, you got a German Shepherd dog, Chloe?
Yeah.
These dogs are heavy, and if they take a flying jump at you, they can knock you to the ground quite easily, right?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
The owner could have pulled the dog away, right? And something could have happened.
I think John hit his head on some gym equipment or something.
Could well be.
JD says, back the dog.
Do you know what I think? Do you know what I've been thinking? I think there was some sort of scuffle or start of a fight in the house, and the dog didn't realize what was going on, and like I said, attacked the stranger. And I think John has went to defend himself and swiped at one of them, Higgins or Albert or whoever it is, and the dog has went for him, and like you say, Doc, a big dog like that can knock you on your ass.
Yeah.
I think he's knocked over with a dog attached to his arm. That's why you see the marks the way they are in his arm, because he's put his arm up to defend himself, and the force of the dog has knocked him back, and he's maybe battered his head, like Susan says, on some gym equipment, like on a dumbbell or a weight or something like that. and they've all panicked, went, holy fuck, and then they've put the plan in gear to put him out in the gear den, and then concocted the plan to blame it on Karen, because you've also got to remember there was a blizzard that night, but when John was moved, it was grass under his body, not snow, grass. So if there was a blizzard, it means he has been put on that grass before the heavy snow. If it's not been before the heavy snow,
you got it backwards, Alice.
When he's been put on that snow, and it's melted what little snow there was underneath him when he's been put on that grass.
No, you got it backwards. Had Karen hit him at 12:30, like they say, there was a light dusting of snow at that point. And he would have been on the grass. But if you look at the photos, John was on top of the snow. The blood was on top of the snow.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
So, yeah, he was on top of the snow.
So essentially what they're trying to do here is to compartmentalize this incident. In other words, no one in the house is going to ever admit to John stepping inside the house.
No
one. And they're all, because they know that if someone...
Higgins kind of did at the federal grand jury.
Okay.
He said a tall, dark man came in. Somebody I didn't know who it was. And that's it. He can later claim that, he didn't lie. I think it's the reason he did that.
Okay.
Because
great discussion.
That's a prison sentence when you lie to the grand jury. Federal grand jury especially.
Oh yeah.
But this is so transparent. It's an obvious high level of corruption because it's a multi-layered cake. Right? Yeah. It's like a domino effect. And Proctor got caught with his pants down. It got worse and worse and worse. And his lack of professionalism, the way he was going through the Karen's phone, looking for naked pictures, having these conversations with his buddies. You think to yourself, are you a professional investigator? Are you? Right? It's so shocking. But because these guys are trained officers, they can look at you and blatantly lie and keep a straight face.
Yeah.
Yeah, you think about a county mountie or kind of any state cop, and you think a lot of these guys are not really making that much money. I'm not being mean or anything. I'm just saying that a lot of places can't afford to pay their police officers really what they should be making. Proctor was making like 180 grand a year.
Yeah.
180,000. Now, look, I've made some pretty good money in my lifetime, but I've never made that in a year.
No.
Plus all of his benefits.
Yeah. Plus he's just straight face, callous behavior and treatment. Remember, these guys use the read technique. They're let a lie, right?
Oh, yeah.
For him, he can't tell the difference between a lie and telling the truth. And even though, because I've seen some of the testimonies, the lawyer was hammering down, oh, yeah, I was unprofessional. Oh, yes, I used verbiage that I shouldn't have. And I'm thinking to myself, had this been in Russia, or China, they would have strung him up by the toes, right?
Oh, yeah.
He, in the American court, he can lie his ass off and go, oh, yeah. And remember his attorney, object.
Oh, yeah.
But see, the thing is, Doc, is that the shit show and the shenanigans that's gone on, the judge has got grave concerns. She's gravely concerned with the defense and the Archer witnesses and what's
Some
been
bullshit.
going on. But she's not gravely concerned about the prosecution hiding video evidence, not handing over evidence, still handing over evidence on the bloody 26th of March of this year, the prosecution are still handing over evidence for the defence to try and look at. But that's not our grave concerns.
And also, they turned over a video during trial 1 that just happened to be inverted in the Sally port.
Yeah, that was another. That was another.
The judge had no problem with that.
No, she'd make big concepts about that.
Well, that's another issue I really haven't touched on. Judge Bev, I guess as everybody calls her.
Yeah.
I've seen
Auntie
Bev. I've seen quite a bit about her. I don't want to be too detrimental, but I can tell you it's just not been a really good look. A lot about her. Yeah. Oh, very, very biased. And
I think Willis.
Well, in many ways, but discovery, that's a process and it's supposed to be done by a certain date. And if you don't do it, and that goes for the defense too, you're in trouble. There could be
God, the
sanctions.
excuses they have. They're laying everything at Proctor's feet since he's been fired and disgraced. It's all his fault now.
Well, the thing is, in some ways, it is, because from my personal opinion, again, this is just from what I've seen so far, everything that happened once he got involved, everything flowed from him. Everything. He controlled the investigation. He controlled much of the evidence. So,
and he controlled the other people handling the evidence. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. There was one video, I think, from trial 1 that they were showing. I watched. I think it was on the DUI guy's channel. I think that's Anyway, it was the pieces of tail out that was supposed to be in this bag, and there was supposed to be, I think, 3. And there was 4 or 5.
It was 4 in the one bag.
Yes, that's what it was.
Yeah, and then the other bag. No, I can't remember.
I can't either. But it was wrong.
Yeah.
And he's trying to say, well, it broke again while it was in the bag. Really?
Well, the original bag, the first bag, showed that all 5 pieces were in this bag. And then there was a second bag that had the clear plastic separated from the red plastic. And I think there were 2 pieces in it, but the red turned from 3 to 4 pieces.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
but they were originally all marked on the outside of the bag that they were all in this same bag, and by trial they were in 2 separate bags.
Yeah, that's another problem for me, because now you're messing with sealed evidence, instead of just creating a new bag, right? Just create a new bag,
right?
It's not only that. It's the way the judge is going on and all. I mean, the bias. I mean, she got asked to recuse herself, and she denied it. She didn't recuse herself, and I think she's had her knickers in a twist since then.
And the fact that that's her decision, to me, is just wrong.
It's an abomination.
They filed a motion for her to recuse herself. That should be looked at by another judge.
That should have been looked at by the chief judge of that district or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Based on whatever actions that she has taken, that the defense felt strongly enough that they wanted her replaced with a new judge.
Yeah. And even the appearance of bias, even if there isn't bias, they're supposed to recuse because of the public's look at it. And even if it's an appearance, they are supposed to recuse themselves.
But Susan, she doesn't even hold her bias back. It's blatant.
It is blatant. Just like Gold.
When you're watching it.
The same thing. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? The way she interrupts Jackson or Unetti or Alessi, the way she interrupts them and everything like that, and the way she talks to them.
The way she doesn't interrupt, what's his name? Brennan.
She never interrupted Larry in the first gen either, when he would go off in rants. Fuck's sake, it took, what, 8 weeks or something like that before Larry actually got to the point of how John died?
Right.
In the first trial. You know what I mean? So the way she is and the way she treats the defense to the prosecution, I hope the jury picks up on that, because she's constantly interrupting them, whereas she
I'm sure they I'm sure they will.
But, you know, a couple of jurors from trial 1 have spoken, and I think they both said what a nice woman she was, and she treated them really well, and they had no complaints about her. You know, did you see Nan's life? Speaking of judges, have you all seen Wisconsin Judge Hannah Dugan charged by the feds the other day? Have not seen that.
Had not seen that. Wow.
She helped an illegal she helped an immigrant, but he was in her court on I think it was an abuse case. He was in her, and ICE came to her courtroom, and she told ICE to go and speak to the chief judge. And while they went to speak to the chief judge, she let the guy and his lawyer go out the jury door onto a public space, into a public space. But there was plainclothes, ICE cops and that there, who watched them come out into the public space, no arrest them in the public space of the courthouse, waited until he went out of the courthouse, and then arrested them on the street. And then they came back this week or something like that and got the judge.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, you know, getting back to the case and, you know, the actions of law enforcement, and this is the real motivator for me, the actions and the events surrounding the steps that Proctor took. And not only that, you know, we can just kind of snicker or whatever, maybe not snicker, but, you know, he's texting people that are friends of his, you know, school friends or whatever, they're not cops, about this case. Susan mentioned
and
it earlier.
His sister as well.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't even say how improper that is. I mean, to me, that's a fireable offense right out of the gate. It's not I mean, to me, it's not a light thing. It should never be. And they're treating it like it's nothing. But it's. I mean, they did. I mean, he's gone now, but it took forever to get him fired over all these really, truly, really
3 different hearings. 3 different hearings. Yeah,
these things are so inappropriate. I can't even imagine. Hey, it's fine that you have, you know, people that will back you and help protect you, but when you're clearly wrong,
He was also sending these messages and that to his superiors, Jack.
Yeah,
they
Some
knew.
of
his
the
bosses
chain in
and
messages was his bosses, and they done bugger all about it until they got caught. And then the bosses, who should have been fired, in my opinion, got, what was it, 5 days suspended.
But they lost some vacation days or something. Yeah.
Something like that, Susan. That's what they got for that.
What?
No, they should have
all
got
those
suspended.
Horrible things he was saying about Karen. Just horrible.
Disgusting, vile, ugly things.
Well, to me, that
sorry, and I don't mean this towards all men or to the men on my panel, but the things that this guy was saying is what vile men like him say, the most disgusting and crudest thing that they can say about a woman. That's how
No
bad
respect.
things were.
No respect.
Jack, have you watched that testimony where Proctor has to read his texts?
I did.
You did,
It's
Doc.
awful.
I
It's
did.
awful. It's awful.
Unreal. Unreal.
Embarrassing.
It really is. You know,
Ah.
I had nothing to do with it, and I was embarrassed listening to it. I'm like, oh my God, this guy. I mean, you know, I just can't get through it, man. In my head, again, this guy is a highly, I don't know what his rank was in the state trooper, lieutenant or something, or you remember, Susan, what his rank is?
No, I don't know. He's too high.
Yeah,
He's
he's making a pile.
investigator.
He's making a pile of money. I know it's expensive living in Boston, but still, you could live well on that. I know I could. Great benefits, I'm sure. He's got, I'm sure, a lot of perks. And this is the way he acts. So to me, that tells me he's comfortable doing it. He's been doing it to me. What other cases has he? You get what I'm saying? So and so now I have to force myself to look at what other cases did his superiors know that he's doing this stuff. He's acting this way, and they let him.
Well, I'll tell you,
away,
Jack. One of the most damning things is there are several other cases that he led on, and they were excellent investigations. He did everything right.
See, right there,
so
you go.
It just proves that he knows what the fuck he's doing, right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So anyway, we've been chewing on this for a little while. I don't want to keep everybody here too much longer. So, after Proctor gets a hold of the car, then all of a sudden they start finding pieces of tail out all over the yard. I'm wondering, if she hit him at 25 miles an hour, there wasn't any of it embedded in his skin. And I say this because many years ago, and I say this is when I was pretty young, my brother was involved in a car crash with another buddy. My brother was a wildcat, okay? They drank, they did drugs, whatever. Anyway, we lived in East Tennessee, and the roads there, I know a lot of you live in flat areas. Until you live in an area where it's mountainous and so forth, the roads are curvy, and some of them, and this one had a hairpin turn. When I say hairpin, it literally went around. And this was a highway, basically a highway. It's kind of another way to get from East Tennessee into North Carolina. And this is part of the Dragon. If anybody that rides motorcycles have heard of the Dragon, that's this road. Anyway, I don't know what the hell they were doing, but there were a couple of lakes on this road, and he told me, my brother, that the law got after him, and his buddy, he had a 68 Mustang, whatever, pretty fast car. Anyway, they were going down this road and came to this hairpin turn, and he didn't. They flew off the side of this damn highway. The car turned sideways midair. They hit a tree, tore the windshield off of it, and half the back of the car. Yeah, it really hurt both of them. Anyway, my brother ate most of the windshield, and that shit embedded in his skin. He picked glass out of him. I'm not lying. When I tell you this, he picked glass out of his arms and chest for over a decade.
Yeah,
I'm not kidding.
I can't believe he survived that. My God.
He did. His hands were crushed. He had some other injuries. Of course, all the glass. His buddy it really fucked him up. Pardon my language. Broke compound fracture in one leg. Bunch of broken ribs. Broke one of his arms. Busted something in his mouth. I can't remember what that was. He was really messed up. Our brother got it because the car was way off the road. He got him, drug him with his hands were crushed, drug him up to the highway and crawled to a house and got help.
Wow.
Yeah, it really messed him up. Anyway, that's what I'm saying, Doc. if she hit
I
him
want
at
to tell you
25 miles an hour,
I want to tell you something about that 24 miles an hour.
yeah,
It comes from like the black box of the car, whatever that's called,
oh yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
records everything, right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Showing that the car went 24 miles in reverse. When you watch where the tow truck driver came and to get Karen's car at her parents' house later that afternoon on the 29th, there had been, oh God, a lot of snow by this time. It was 4:30 in the afternoon.
Right.
The car was in the driveway. The driveway had not been plowed. So when they are backing the car out of her driveway, they
Spinning
have
the
to go
tires.
forward and back, but you will see the tire spin.
There you go.
And then you will see him make a 3-point turn to get onto the tow truck. And that's exactly where that information that is in that black box comes from.
Wow. I
Yeah.
did not know that.
And also the key cycles prove it. How many key cycles, how many times the car was turned on. You go backwards from the Sally port, right?
Right.
And or from actually Trooper Paul tested the car. So you start there and then the Sally port, and then you go back taking it off the tow truck and then to Karen's driveway, and it all matches up. And they just lied about it the first time around. They had an idiot, Trooper Paul was their accident reconstructionist. And oh my God, you've never seen a more embarrassing testimony in your life. You watch that guy. Total idiot.
Can I just ask a question? You
Please.
know, this is what you were saying about your brother and his friend. Did they actually do trace evidence analysis on John's skin
Not that I'm aware of.
for the presence
Susan,
of embedded plastic?
No. They say there was microscopic plastic in his clothing. But
From what?
but
That could be from
the clothing has no chain of evidence with it, okay? And they had it for a long time before it was ever sent to the lab.
There's no chain of custody of that.
No chain of custody of anything.
What?
The taillight piece, everything. Everything no chain of custody. Mm-mm. No metadata on their videos. Didn't
the car's black box record a hit? Was there any evidence of
No.
Yeah, wasn't the airbag deployed? Wasn't the airbag deployed at 25?
It was a Lexus, okay? It's like a 2022 Lexus or 21 Lexus.
Loaded.
Yeah.
Because most of those, I was going to say most of those cars
today,
they've got reverse sensors. The closer you get to an object, it beeps, so it warns you that there's going to be an imminent collision, which means that all of that should be recorded on the ECU or whatever it is of the car. All that evidence should be there that a collision took place.
And I'm pretty sure there was some funny business with the info on that. I'm not real clear on all of the details of that, but I am sure about they say she backed up and within 60 feet, she was going 24 miles an hour when she hit him. It's impossible. People have tried it. You can't do it. Yeah.
I'll put up these photos. There's a couple of websites out there that have got some of the evidence photos that was presented in trial 1 that we can look at. I'll be adding some, a lot of descriptions or links to the description after the fact, but I just wanted to show a few of these showing the house at 34 Fairview.
If you look in the top right 2 windows was their bedroom. Brian Albert and Nicole Albert. I'm sorry, the left. The top 2 left windows. Yes, right there. And his body was out here by the flagpole.
Oh my God. So it was right there.
was right
Plain
there.
view.
Yeah.
Well, and, that gets into other witnesses that say they left and didn't see anything.
Never saw the body there. Like
And
almost 12 people.
The plow driver never saw a body when he went to plow
Right.
the road either.
At 2:30 a.m.
Yeah.
Did not see a body on the lawn.
Nope.
And this, from what I understand, these pictures make their lawn look way bigger than it actually is. It's actually very small.
I've seen other photos. I've seen other photos, and the road is literally. I mean, I've seen
There's
other
no
photos.
sidewalk.
No.
This
The
is right
curb and
inside the
then-
front door. If you go straight past that stairway to the right, there's the door to the basement. And the front door is just to the left of this photo. In the middle.
over here.
Yeah, right in there. Yeah. It's just a few steps to the basement door. That's the den.
That's the back area. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kitchen. Anyway, there's a lot of photos. There's a lot of information out there. But I really wanted to show, and I tried to find a photo that I saw. It wasn't from this group. It was from another group that shows that front yard is not big at all. It really isn't.
No, it's not. I think somebody said from their window to where he was, it's only like 45 feet or something like that.
Yeah.
It is not far at all. And all that commotion going on out there, supposedly with the German Shepherd in the bedroom, all the lights, they didn't have the sirens going, but they had all the lights going. They had Karen screaming her head off. Is he dead? Is he dead?
Well, there were probably sirens approaching, I would imagine,
No, I don't think they did. It was early morning. It was a snowstorm and there wasn't traffic out. So I don't think they used their sirens. But still.
No, Travis says, I've owned a few of the exact vehicle. Problem is with four-wheel drive with traction control. Jack can tell you about it. The information from Toyota was not helpful to defense experts.
Travis, have you seen the back wheel spin in the snow when they're backing it out of Karen's parents' driveway? You have to really look at it. You have to really watch. It's like when she backed into John's car. If you just watch it, you can't really see. But they enlarged it in court in trial 1, and you can see his car move when she hits it. So she definitely hits it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if they're spinning the tires in reverse trying to get it, I mean that
that's going to show them.
Well, I mean, I don't know how that data is amassed inside the black box, the computer, but if they're trying to spin and get, I've been stuck before. I've certainly reached those speeds spinning my tires for sure. But
I actually think they had backed up a little bit and then they were going forward again because I think it I don't know if they started spinning or what, but they went forward again. And then when they were going forward again is when it was spinning, I think. I'm not sure. I don't remember.
I haven't seen that video. I haven't seen that video, so
actually it was when they were backing up, sorry.
In the coming weeks we're going to get more in depth looking. I think I'd really originally had planned to start from the beginning and go through it, but I think with trial 2 going on, just my opinion, I'm certainly open to everyone else's opinion as well. I think it would be better to do the comparison. What they've said compared to what's going on now.
Well, I tell you, yesterday, Aiden Carney, also known as Turtle Boy, put out a video, which is he goes from beginning to now and explains everything in the case. It's pretty good. It's
take a look at it.
yeah.
I'm not subbed to his channel, so if you could send me a link.
Yeah, I will. I'll put a link in Discord.
Okay,
Susan,
that would be helpful.
Susan, have you seen the video that the guy's done? There's I can't, I wish I could remember his name. I've actually been trying to find the
Microdots?
The link to the video. Is it Microdots? He's actually done a video, and it's with the ballistic gel, the gel stuff that acts like humans, and he's got the bone through it, and he goes and he drives his car at 25 miles an hour, and he hits the arm, and it breaks the elbow, it breaks the radius, it breaks the ulnar, it fractures the wrist. It's
I did see that. That was interesting. That was not Microdots. I forget the channel name.
Yeah, me too. I've been trying to find it.
That's crazy. Anyway,
have you been seeing anything lately about the so-called planted rock?
The what?
Planted rock?
Yeah. It's all over Twitter. The new
I saw an image. Does it say Albert's on it?
Yeah, it does.
That's all. I only saw an image of it. I don't know anything more about it.
It's been placed on the lawn for the jury going there.
Oh wow!
Really?
It wasn't there at 7:30 in the morning, but it was there when the jury was there. While they were all there looking at it, it was there right on the fucking lawn.
Why?
And then after, it's gone.
Why? Why would they do that?
To make, in my opinion, now this is just my opinion, was to make the jury think that that rock has been there, and that's what John could have hit his head on.
Oh,
I hope the defense raises like 15 kinds of hell about that. That's wrong, man.
I didn't know that was at the scene. Oh my god.
Yeah, this was at the scene. It's all over Twitter. Fucking since yesterday. I actually noticed it today because they went
who put the rock there? Who put the rock there, Alice?
Don't know. Somebody had put a lassie. I'm on Twitter the new to see if I can see anything about it. A lassie had put I think it was a lassie. Somebody had put a post up on Twitter saying that they were there at 7:30 in the morning, and it wasn't there. The rock wasn't there. And then when the jury and that was there, the rock was there right in front of them and everything like that. And then after the jury had been and seen the scene and everything like that, the rock was moved.
Interesting.
I'm trying to see if I can find anything about it, the new.
Well, we need to talk about, before we get out of here, a couple more issues. Doug, did you have something to add on this?
No, I was just going to say, it just becomes more ridiculous by the second, right? And my comment was that if you're the investigator collating the forensic evidence, you're the investigator that can tell a narrative and a story any way you want it to go. It's as simple as that. He who gathers the evidence tells the narrative. And it looks like what Proctor or whoever was trying to do was reconstruct the crime scene, blaming it on Karen, reversing and hitting her boyfriend, as opposed to an incident occurring inside the house, some type of altercation, a dog attack, and then placing John on the ground and everyone denying it. Like the action of all these individuals involved.
We're going to get we're going to get into that, and Susan's probably going to know more, and probably Sleuthy. I want to talk about cell phones for a moment. Now, we've had cell phones in my family for 26, 27 years. I mean, constantly. Somebody had one, then another person got one, and then by the time a very short time passed, me and my wife and both the kids had their phones, and it's just the way it's been. Looking back over those years, and even including friends, I don't know of anyone that literally destroyed their phone for no reason. Number one,
and their SIM card,
or their SIM card. Number two, I think the only one that I remember that really happened that sticks out is a friend of my daughter. One of my daughters dropped her phone and cracked the screen. I think that maybe happened twice. I think another family friend may have dropped their phone and cracked the screen, but that's it. Literally, in this case, as I recall now, there are 4 phones that got either destroyed or the SIM card got destroyed. Within this, I'm not talking about extended. I'm talking about this group of people. Brian Albert got rid of his phone. I think, or his SIM card. I don't remember which. It doesn't matter. If the SIM card's gone, it removes the data. Higgins got rid of his phone, as I recall. Is that right, Susan?
Higgins got rid of his on a military base, both the SIM card and the phone. Brian Albert went and got a new phone and got rid of the old phone. Yeah.
Jen McCabe got rid of her phone, right? Yeah. No, it wasn't Jen. It was the daughter. It was the daughter.
Her daughter did.
Yes. I
Jen
can't remember her
McCabe
name.
turned her phone in, but she asked them before she turned it in, do you mind if I delete some text from my children? And they said, sure, go ahead.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, we can debate this till the cows come home. I know some are not going to agree that this is an odd thing, but to me, it's a complete red flag, especially those that live in that house. Sorry. And connected and had conversations, and now their phones are gone. I'm sorry. This is a major red flag for me. Doc, do you have a opinion about these phones just flying out the window?
At the end of the day, remember, they're detectives, they're in law enforcement, they deal with criminals all the time. And one thing that they're smart is that they've got to remove any trace of anything coming back to them. So the way they do it is they sponge their history. They get rid of it. And even in the Delphi murder trial, the number one thing that they wanted from Richard was his mobile phone from 2017, because they wanted to determine, okay, you're telling me all this, but what does your mobile phone say, right? So hence, with these police officers, they know, shit, you got geofencing, you've got history, especially if they're Apple phones or Android phones. You've got all this GPS data. If they've got health apps, they can determine the number of steps, etc., etc. They can determine cell tower pings. Hey, get rid of it all, expunge it. So therefore, they all come up with a similar excuse. Oh, yeah, I did this, I did this. Remember, they are in law enforcement. If anyone is going to cover up their tracks, it's them. Simple as that.
Yeah, and to me, it's just a horrible look.
Shocking.
The optics are awful.
Yeah.
Anyway, wait, Sunshine Christina jumped out. I was just fixing to ask her if she had anything to add. Let's get final thoughts and let's get out of here. We've been at this 2 hours and almost 50 minutes now, so let's jump out. I'm getting quite hungry, and I know people are tired, but for me, this is just us telling people that have followed us for years now. We haven't left the Avery Dassey cases. There's just nothing going on right now to report. And, we can go back and rehash everything that we've already done, but I mean, there's some things we haven't done. We haven't read through, all of Zollner's filings from when she got on the case. We haven't done that. But is there a need to do that? I don't think there is. I mean, if people wanted to do it, I'm sure, and I haven't had anyone say, yeah, you need to do this. But these are, I mean, good cases to really examine to me. Both of them are. And they show, again, what we feel is some definite direction and corruption by local, even state police. And it's an awful look. Anyway, final thoughts, Doc?
Yeah, two very, very fascinating cases. I just shake my head with the Karen Read. I cannot believe it got this far. Millions and millions of dollars just wasted for nothing. It really is looking like en masse police corruption, police protection. Blame it on the girl. Blame it on Karen Read. And they never ever thought that it was going to get that far. With the Delphi murder case, I'm personally more interested in that because of the incredible parallels that I see with what happened with Stephen and with Brendan. And talking about Stephen and Brendan, people really like to hear new information rather than rehashing old material. And the Foul Play team has spent years and hundreds of podcasts going through the Stephen Avery, Brendan Dassey cases, every aspect. We've done that. We've done a hell of a lot of that. And individuals like to hear new cases, especially these cases, the Delphi murder case, the Karen Read trial, because they're very, very topical. And I like to, especially with the Delphi murder case, break it down, have a look at the similarities to what I'm familiar with, the type of areas that I'm familiar with. So I'll definitely continue that. And like I said, next week, guys, I'm going to be doing the interrogations, the 2 interrogations of Richard Allen that he did at the police station with the
Jerome's channel.
And on Jerome's channel, and break that down. So hopefully you can join us. Hopefully the podcast won't be too long, because that's why I've broken them up into 2. But fascinating stuff. Good to be back.
Yeah, I'll put a link to Jerome's channel in the description after we're done.
Awesome.
And so that way everybody that's interested can find it easily. So thank you very much, Doc, for coming on. I know you've had going through some crap, and I'm glad you're
we all have.
better. Oh, absolutely.
Unreal.
I'm done. I was done with 2025 by the end of January. Done.
Yeah.
Oh God, I'm done with it myself.
Jesus Christ, man.
Anyway. You
Final
sound a
thoughts,
lot
Susan?
better, Doc. Your voice is sounding much stronger.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep. Susan, final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm just I truly believe that with everything, the defense has kind of changed their strategy quite a bit on this trial. And I do think she will be found not guilty unless they have a plant on a juror. Or someone got on that had strong feelings against, because just like all of these high profile cases, there are adamant guilty parties that don't really look at the evidence. They just have a feeling. They can tell by looking at her.
Yep, that happened in the Delphi case too.
Happened in the Avery case.
Yeah,
yes,
I spoke to one of the jurors, and she was a young girl, I think about 20, and she goes, "Oh, I believe Richard Allen's confession. The conditions in the prison, they weren't that bad."
Yeah, right.
Alive.
Right?
Gotta be joking, right?
That's
it.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Well, somebody that age, they're not going to understand the torture of being locked in a box, a concrete box, and living.
Not to mention being accused of something that you're innocent of.
Murdering 2 young girls.
Yeah.
People talk about Karen Read's attitude in court. She didn't cry when John's mom was on the stand, or she didn't look sad, or she looked like a bitch, or, you know, she just, she looks like a lawyer. Well, you know, Karen has been basically a lawyer for the last over 3 years. She is totally involved in her defense with her team. She attends every meeting they have, every get together. She investigates. She does all kinds of work on her case. She's an intelligent woman that wants to be involved. She knows she's innocent. She's trying to save her life. I mean, she's facing, you know, life in prison, basically.
Yeah.
But imagine being innocent and being accused, and then spending your life savings, losing your job, having to sell your house,
All your
losing
belongings.
everything, losing her driver's license even. They still have her car, from what I understand.
Oh, yeah.
She lost everything. She had to move in with her parents, for God's sake. I mean, that's a tragedy.
Yep. And that's exactly the same thing with what happened with Richard Allen when he told his the interrogator. He goes, well, you know, arrest me. You've done it. You know, like it's all
That's
over.
it.
And the reason why he
him.
said it's all over is because once the light shines on you being associated with the murder of 2 little girls, and in the case of Karen Read, the murder of a Boston police officer, you're finished.
Hey, Richard Allen watched Dateline. He knew.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yes.
He knew what's going on. Yeah.
He knew. And that's why when we break down the interrogations, you'll see the moment when the light bulb went off in his head, thinking, holy shit.
Yeah.
They think I'm guilty. What the hell?
Yeah.
Unreal.
But I'll tell you what, I commend him because the Reed technique did not work on Richard Allen.
No.
He did not cave. He confessed his innocence.
But it's the deceit that the officers used to try and trick him on his own words. But what destroyed Richard were the shocking conditions inside the prison cell.
Oh my God! Yeah.
I saw a documentary of that very prison.
I've seen it, Doc.
You saw it too? Where they talked to all the prisoners on death row?
Yes.
Oh my God. They're like
they had luxury compared to what
rats in a cage.
Their cells were luxurious compared to his.
Correct.
He had nothing in there.
No,
I mean,
strip
bare. I mean, it treated him like the worst criminal ever.
Correct.
Like he was a serial killer and you know, one thing I wanted to point out that you didn't mention, Doc, is that he also confessed to killing his granddaughter.
Yes.
He doesn't have a granddaughter. He confessed to killing his daughter, all kinds of other people.
Correct.
That didn't exist or were alive, you know.
And that is the danger of trying to solicit a confession under extraordinary conditions. You just simply don't do it. How many prisoners of wars have under torturous conditions have said, I did this.
Yeah.
Because they're mentally broken down.
Yeah.
And to think that the jury thought, one girl in the jury thought, the condition, all right.
Not that bad. They're exaggerating. Yeah.
What the hell?
Just look at that photo of him in that wheelchair. That tells a story right there.
It is heartbreaking.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm excited for the rest of the trial. I'm, praying that this jury gets it right. And I think the defense has a much stronger case than last time.
Oh, yeah.
The way they're going about it. I mean, their theme is that Karen was not hit, or John was not hit by a car.
He came out. Jackson came out with guns blazing on that. He said it over and over and over, which was extremely intelligent of him to do that.
Oh, his opening was fantastic. And trial one, Yannetti started with Karen Read was framed. And they're putting the burden on themselves
Yes.
that way. But they
Yes.
just thought it's also obvious that, you know, this is what happened. So they're going to do it that way, but it didn't work. That you have to get the whole jury to believe there's a conspiracy.
Yes.
Which isn't that easy to do.
No.
So yeah, proving that he was not hit by a car is, you know, there's just no disputing it. They have the best top experts that will tell the jury, and the Commonwealth has, you know, their experts are
Well,
grades and grades below what the defense
that's if she
has.
lets them, Susan. That's if she lets Arca testify.
Oh, she will. She has to. She can't stop them from testifying.
I don't know.
She can't. That's what Betterow has said that. I trust Betterow. He's a lawyer that
She
almost
made a
became.
She made a hissy fit mind though about Dr. Russell not being qualified enough.
Yeah, they did a 2-day voir dire on her, but she testified.
Yeah, she did testify, but this, who is it? Rechler or Welcher or whoever it is that's coming in for Brennan.
That's our.
No voir dire, no nothing. That the defence can't, no qualifications
I know.
on what
No
they're
problem.
supposed to on the level of Arca, but yet he's to come in and on rebuttal for Arca. Are you fucking kidding me?
So Monday is the voir dire for Arca.
Yeah.
And it'll all be cleared up then, and they will definitely testify. Good.
Well, yeah, that was another thought of mine. You know, you were talking about praying for this trial, is hoping that Aunt Bev won't interfere too much. She'll follow, you know, proper decorum and court things that she should do, and stay away from the things that are like, wait, what? Why would you do that?
Nah.
I hope she doesn't.
No, it started already, Jack. She started with it already.
Yeah,
in my opinion, what I've seen in the first week, I seen her do in the time I started watching the trial, I have seen her do the exact same thing, and she is only doing it with the defense. She cuts off Alessi, she cuts off Jackson, she cuts off Yannetti, she even cuts off Little to ask them stupid things, but she'll let Brennan drone on and on and on and repeat himself.
Yes.
And then he'll drone on, and then he'll repeat the same thing that he asked 2 questions ago or 2 answers ago. He'll repeat it again. It's just that she should not be on this case. And when it's over,
she'll let him lie and get away with it. He lies all the time.
Yeah, exactly. The FBI thing, that was despicable. But she's got grave concerns about that, though, Susan. But she's got grave concerns about Arca, because she knows Arca is going to come in and they're going to wipe the floor with Brennan and his experts. That's why he doesn't want them in, because they're the ones that's going to put the nail in the coffin that Karen gets found not guilty.
He's scared to death Brennan is scared to death of Arca, obviously. Yeah. He's been trying since he came on the case to get rid of him. And he can't get rid of him.
That's another thing.
She cannot deprive the defense of their experts. She can't do it.
That's another thing that they did, the district. Not one prosecutor in that office really wanted this case for the retrial, so they had to go outside.
Yeah, I understand. They have like over 50 prosecutors.
Yeah, they had to go and hire a third party. Yeah, Brennan's not. He's
a
not
third
part
party
of that
defense attorney. He's a defense attorney.
Well, but they're not able to put on a proper defence though, Susan. Just look what happened yesterday. Where oh, what was his face? Oh, was it Nuttall? It was Nuttall when they were going on about the other guy coming over and starting the CPR, and Jackson was like, "Yes, the scene that you described, my client was nowhere near you," and he's like, and the clip that you showed me. And then he said to him, "Well, how about we look at it again?" And the judge is like, "No, we're not looking at any videos again. That, in my opinion, is wrong. They should have been able. He should have been able to play that video to get this final dispute undisputed. You know what I mean? And play it frame by frame."
The way she let that doctor go on yesterday, with the female lawyer, Karen's lawyer, can't think of her name. Little. Yeah. The way she let the doctor ramble on, you know, it was a yes or no question. And and she tried to stop him, and the judge said, "No, let him finish his answer." And he rambled on for 5 minutes, right?
If I could just add, going back to the Delphi case, you know how many hours Melissa Oberg took to present the bullet evidence? 7 hours.
Oh my God. What? That jury had to be sleeping.
Yeah, in fact, the judge even told off the jury for sleeping during the DNA evidence. She told them off. She goes, "Hey, why are you guys sleeping in my jury?" Right? So Melissa Oberg, the ballistic expert, took 7 hours to explain the bullet evidence. To me, that takes no more than 30 minutes to do.
Yeah,
that's no more than 30 minutes to do. This is what I did. This is what I found. If you're spending 7 hours trying to convince a jury that that bullet had these ejector marks after she fired it, you're in trouble. And so just echoing what everyone has been saying, it's now expert versus expert, opinion versus opinion. Yet, Aaron could sit in prison, and this guy's sitting in prison till he's 130 years.
Yeah,
Scary.
But when you've got a judge that lets witnesses for the prosecution ramble on and add bits in and everything like that, and then when the defense gets up to try and rectify all that, the judge butts in and stops the defense and goes, "Can you answer that? Is that right? Did you lie?" And she keeps them out, Doc. You know what I mean?
She coaches them.
She does, Susan. Yeah, she does. And that is wrong, because she doesn't do it with the defense. She does it with the prosecution. If she wants to be fair, then she should be fair with both. She should give Brennan just as much shit as what she gives the amount of lies that guy has went up there and spewed is unbelievable. The amount of discovery that they have not turned over. Like I said, they were still turning over discovery even though they signed their obligations. They were still signing over discovery in the defense on the 26th of March this year.
We could go on with this stuff for hours, but I know Jack's hungry and I know I'm hungry. So let's wrap this up.
But wasn't this a great chat? Wasn't it great just to get together and just have a chat? Because you go into Discord and, oh my God, there's some really great debates and discussions going on. But it's always good to have a discussion like a panel. And I know next time we'll get Justin on, and this was just as an introduction. So I think those discussions are really fruitful and very, very helpful. And yeah, it was great to do it. Thank you so much, Jack, for putting it on.
Yeah, thank you, Jack.
We'll you know, I'll put a link also in the description for our Discord for anyone that's not in that wants to join. Future open mics, I will open it up to anyone that wants to come and talk, even if you're from the other side. The only real rule that we have is be civil.
Be respectful.
Just be civil.
Civil.
Yeah, we can have a disagreement, and agree to disagree and move on to the next whatever. So that I didn't really plan on open this up for public. I just the idea was from that. You were talking about it the other day. We were talking about the other day, Doc, or last night. I'm like, well, why don't we just go and have a chat? Introduce these cases to everyone we're going to be looking at.
Let's just have a chat.
Yeah. So I think we've done that. Again, we got into some of the details in both cases, some of the finer points, but moving forward, we're going to really start examining things much more closely and in context. So look forward to that. Want to thank everyone, Doc, Susan, Alice, and Christina was on for a while. She bugged off on it. She may have had other things to do, but and obviously all of the people that have joined in. There's been a lot of great discussion in the live chat.
Fantastic.
Once the video generates, if you have comments or whatever, please add them. And again, thanks to all the supporters that have followed us for years now, for just keeping on. We're just people just like you are that have an opinion about our criminal justice system. We've looked at many cases over the last 5 years, many cases, not just the Avery Dassey case. We've looked at other stuff too. I mean, Doc and I spent several weeks, actually several months, on the Nick Hillary case, which was oh my God,
mind-blowing.
God Almighty. Anyway, I want to thank everybody again. Yeah.
Sorry, Jack, just quickly, Travis is asking, Susan, do you think that they're going to drop he was killed in the Hoos defence?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought I was muted. I'm sorry. No, I think they are making it look suspicious. I don't think they're I don't know how strongly they're going at that. I know that their main defense is he wasn't hit by a car, but they're also bringing in all this suspicious investigation, the poor investigation, all the suspicious activity, the suspicious players. So, I mean, that's what I think, Travis. I'm not privy, but according to his opening statement, the main thing is he was not hit by a car, and therefore Karen Reed did not do it.
Yeah, well, he did it, Susan. There is 3 points. There was no collision. There was no collision.
There was no collision. Right. That was perfect.
That's what it boils down to. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's not letting all these people off the hook. But
no, and he shouldn't. He should absolutely blister their ass. Blister them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree. All righty. Anyway, I want to get us out of here. Again, thanks everyone. Look forward to any of your comments. I'll be dropping several things into the description at give me an hour or so, but I'll be adding it, and we'll go from here. We'll get something together for the Reed case, and then Doc is doing a couple of podcasts with Jerome. Not sure what is going to happen after that, but we'll just.
I think it's a little bit tricky because, like I said, I'm not an expert in the Delphi murder case, and I know that I've been liaising with other people who've got their own YouTube channels, and they've just invited me to come on and do certain things. So I've got to respect that, because anything to do with DNA, things like that, I can definitely report, and the Reed technique I can report, because it's something that we have done as a team collectively. But all the hypotheses and the theories, and that's really to show respect. That's really more of what these guys are doing on their channel. Like I said, Amy, Case by Case, Andrea, Defense Diaries, really go to their channels for the nuts and bolts. But I'll certainly, if there's new stuff coming, especially to do with the DNA, and we get their reports, I can certainly present them here. If people are interested. If people are interested.
I think they are. but I'll definitely will link to add a link also to Amy's channel, Case by Case.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, all right, everybody. Until next time, I don't know when that'll be. I would imagine not too long. Anything comes up in the Kratz lawsuit, we'll definitely report it as that happens. So with that said, I'm going to say thanks very much. Good night. This has been a Foul Play production.
Thank you.